Reverend Pierre. Father Pierre, sorry.
Your speech must always be with grace, as though seasoned with salt, so that you will know how you should respond to each person. Colossians 4, verse 6. Let us pray. Loving and gracious God, we come before you this morning at the sitting of the Senate of Antigua and Barbuda at a time when, as a nation, we have begun the festivities celebrating our rich cultural heritage and the anniversary of our emancipation. We give you thanks for your grace and blessing, and for the men and women whose courage, sacrifices, and perseverance help to make it possible for us to celebrate in hope and freedom who we are as a people. We pray that the example, dedication, and vision may continue to inspire us, and especially the men and women of this honorable house, whom you have called to serve you, and the people of Antigua and Barbuda. May they always be mindful of the responsibility entrusted to them and be guided by a spirit of humility, wisdom, and a genuine concern for the common good. As they prepare for today's sitting, we implore you to be present with them in their discussions and deliberations on the bills before them. Grant them a spirit of dialogue and cooperation, so that, illumined by the light of truth and guided by your wisdom, they may always seek and do your will as they endeavor to work together for the good of our nation and the greater glory of your name. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord, and together we pray the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. House is now in session. Senator Guevara. Oh, sorry, Madam Clerk. Sorry.
Confirmation of minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Good morning, everyone. I move that the minutes of Monday, 29th June 2026 be confirmed as what transpired in this Honorable House.
Do you have a seconder, please?
I second the motion, Madam President.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes of Monday, 29th June 2026 be confirmed. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The minutes have been confirmed accordingly. Madam Clerk.
Oath of allegiance of a new member. Messages from the Governor General. Announcements by the President.
Good morning to everyone. Welcome to the Senate for this morning. The meeting just before the Carnival festivities formally kicks off. Isn't it formal kicking off on Friday, on Saturday? Yeah, so during the Carnival season. I just want to extend to advise the membership of the apologies received from members of the Senate. That would include Senator Beazle and Senator Tiffany Strand Peters, who is unavoidably, regrettably attending the funeral service of her aunt, and we want to hold her up in prayer at this time and extend our condolences to her and the rest of her family. We've also been asked to excuse Senator O'Donoghue from the afternoon session, presuming there will be an afternoon session, as she has to travel on government business. I wish to bring to your attention that and I'm sure you'll notice that we have a new person sitting at the table in front of us. And as we welcome Miss Samuel Leisha. I got it right? Okay. Who is the new deputy clerk acting, and we want to wish her all the best. That means that you're going to give her a really nice welcome today and let her go home early. Yes. So we thank you all. I don't have much to say. I believe my statement will come towards the end. I have some announcements in respect of matter item 18 on the agenda. And if there's anything that appears throughout the meeting session today, I will advise you. And I think that would be all for now, Madam Clerk, yes? So we'll please continue with the agenda, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Presentation of petitions. Presentation of papers and reports from select committees.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I beg to lay on the table the following statutory instruments. Number 58 of 2026, notice by the Minister on the Section 1 of the Prevention of Terrorism Amendment Act 2016. Number 59 of 2026, notice by the Minister on the Section 1 of the Law Miscellaneous Amendments Act 2017. Number 60 of 2026, the Non-Citizens on Development Land Declaration of Undeveloped Land, number 6 order of 2026. Number 61 of 2026, the Non-Citizens on Developed Land Declaration of Undeveloped Land, number 7 order of 2026. Number 62 of 2026, the Non-Citizens on Development Land Declaration of Undeveloped Land, number 8 order of 2026. Office of the Ombudsman, Ombudsman Annual Report for the years 2024 and 2025. Antigua and Barbuda Transport Board, non-consolidated financial statements for years ended 31st December 2006 to December 31st, 2025, and the Antigua and Barbuda Tourism Authority financial statements for years ended December 31st, 2016 to December 31st, 2024.
Madam Clerk.
Urgent questions.
Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Madam President. Will the Honourable Leader of Government Business inform this Honourable House of the reason for JetBlue Airways' decision to cease operations in Antigua and Barbuda?
Thank you so very much, Madam President. As per public knowledge, JetBlue, without advance notice, by the way, would have indicated that they've made an internal commercial decision, and it's a part of their wider strategy to redeploy their aircrafts to fill the slot in Fort Lauderdale that became available by Spirit Airlines. And in fact, Madam President, I want to make this Honourable House very aware, and the public of Antigua and Barbuda, that the Ministry of Tourism, in fact, just today our Director of Tourism is currently in negotiations with American Airlines, of which I am not at liberty to disclose what is being discussed, but we look forward to, of course, greater arrivals are from the American Airlines. And also, Madam President, JetBlue, there's a YouTube video that is going around, and even in their release, they would have indicated several reasons, including the cost of fuel and rising operational costs. And so our team is working tirelessly. In fact, earlier this week, Minister Fernandez and members of the Antigua Hotel Tourism Association would have met with JetBlue officials, and they would have indicated that the reasons, as I would have previously mentioned. Madam President, if it pleases you.
Senator Hughes, you have a supplemental?
Yes, Madam President. I heard the leader of government business going on about what is happening. But I want to ask the question direct. Again, Madam President, as a supplementary question, what measures are being taken to mitigate the impact on tourism, apart from speaking to American Airlines that is already a carrier? Are we attracting any new carriers to Antigua and Barbuda to replace that route?
Madam President, if I may, as was mentioned, our Ministry of Tourism officials are currently in negotiation, and not limited to American Airlines. I'm only speaking about that because that transpired this morning, but all other airlines, Delta, United Airlines, and I can assure you that for the 2026-2027 tourism period and beyond, that we will see that slot being even replaced or filled, Madam President. Our Ministry of Tourism officials have been working tirelessly to ensure that it does not impact us at all. So we await the official release accordingly, Madam President.
Senator Hughes?
My final question, Madam President. Would the honourable member agree with me that the behaviour of JetBlue
Senator Hughes?
Madam President?
Senator Hughes?
Yes, ma'am.
That upon the request that you sent me.
It's not there. The question, Madam
It's not there. You don't rephrase.
Madam President?
You asked the question that I approved.
Would the honourable member agree that JetBlue did not consult with the government prior to its removal of its airline from Antigua, and would the honourable member consider it a form of disrespect to the state of Antigua and Barbuda, the behaviour of JetBlue?
And honourable member, I'm going to tell you, don't answer the question because that is not the question that I approved. Madam Clerk.
Questions on notice. Request for leave to move the adjournment of the Senate on matters of urgent public importance. Statements by ministers or parliamentary secretaries. Personal explanations. Motions relating to the business of sittings of the Senate and moved by a minister. Introduction of bills.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the government, I beg to introduce the following bills and ask for them to be read. A first time, the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill 2026, Banking Amendment Bill 2026, Antigua and Barbuda Citizenship by Investment Amendment Bill 2026, and the Visiting Forces Bill 2026.
The Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill 2026, Banking Amendment Bill 2026, Antigua and Barbuda Citizenship by Investment Amendment Bill 2026, the Visiting Forces Bill 2026. Public business.
Senator Guevara.
I move the suspension of Standing Orders 57B to enable the bills shortly entitled the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill 2026, the Banking Amendment Bill 2026, the Antigua and Barbuda Citizenship by Investment Amendment Bill 2026, and the Visiting Forces Bill 2026 to be read a second and third time.
Second the motion, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Ryan. It has been moved and seconded that Standing Order 57B be suspended to enable the bills shortly entitled Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill 2026, Banking Amendment Bill 2026, Antigua and Barbuda Citizenship by Investment Amendment Bill 2026, the Visiting Forces Bill 2026, to be read a second and a third time. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Senator Gavallo.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill 2026, Madam President. This is not a contentious bill, Madam President. What we are seeking to do here is to modernize the way our airport administration charges are collected, distributed, and managed. And what we want, Madam President, as a government, is a dedicated source for climate resilience. Madam President, you know, Antigua and Barbuda, we are a small island developing state, Madam President, prone to natural disasters, Madam President. Madam President, this will also support regional safety and strengthen our ability to invest in our overall airport infrastructure. Madam President, I will say without a doubt that Antigua has one of the best airports, if not the best airport, Madam President, within the Caribbean. And what we continue to do, Madam President, is to ensure that we position Antigua and Barbuda, Madam President, as a premier tourism and aviation hub, Madam President. Madam President, one of the key provisions of this bill is the allocation of a portion of the funds to a climate resilience and development fund, Madam President, and this represents a significant shift within the policy. Rather than allowing all of airport revenue, Madam President, to flow into our general government finances, Madam President, this legislation dedicates part of those funds specifically to climate resilience. And we know the effects of global warming, Madam President, and as a small island developing state, we see the increased threats of hurricanes, rising sea levels, and other climate-related disasters. And Madam President, the airport is a critical part of our national infrastructure, and particularly during emergencies, Madam President, our airport is our gateway, you know. It's our way in and out of Antigua and Barbuda, Madam President. Madam President, the bill further provides that half of the funds that is transferred to the Climate Resilience Development Fund should primarily support civil aviation, air transportation, Madam President, and regional integration initiatives. So this means, Madam President, that no money that is generated through the airport administration charges can be reinvested into improving the airport infrastructure. Madam President, another important amendment in this piece of legislation, Madam President, concerns Antigua and Barbuda's contribution to the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority. So what this bill does, Madam President, is that it provides a fixed amount for every international passenger, and note, international passengers, Madam President. So not the Antiguans and Barbudans, international passengers, because you know, I know the opposition is talking about this is another tax on the people of Antigua and Barbuda, Madam President. I want to make it absolutely clear, right, that this legislation is a fixed amount, Madam President, on international passengers. So, Madam President, what the legislation also does, it increases the airport administration charges payable by arriving passengers, departing passengers, and transit passengers. So, Madam President, this is really not, it's a one-page amendment. And it is very clear, Madam President, and it also makes provision that if for whatever reason we may need to incur any additional charges, that the Cabinet will have the power so to do. So it's a timely legislation, Madam President, and it speaks about the specific costs. Just to mention, in case of each international passenger arriving into Antigua, it's now US $50. departing out of Antigua, another US $50, and anyone who is transiting into Antigua and Barbuda, just $30, Madam President. So, Madam President, this is a very important piece of legislation. Madam President, it's not one that is contentious. We live the global warming, the effects of it, Madam President, and of course, we have to maintain that beautiful airport that we have. And so, with those few words, Madam President, I fully support this uncontentious bill in its entirety, if it pleases you.
Have a seconder, please.
Madam President, I second the motion and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Senator Rain. Senator Parker.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, the diligent, intentional, and focused senators on this side of the row absolutely disagree with the leader of government business. This is a highly contentious bill. It is so very contentious, I want the people of Antigua to know that I have dubbed it the 3Ds. This is a 3D bill. This is how we're going to remember this piece of legislation. And what the 3Ds stand for is that it is deceptive, it is desperate, and it is dangerous if we allow this amendment to pass under the guise of a simple, quote-unquote, one-page amendment. So walk with Malika, let me tell you why. We have there's some functional issues with this piece of legislation which we take exception with. And we have serious conceptual concerns in this amendment. Once again, and this is the first conceptual issue I want the people of Antigua to understand. Once again, this government is creatively seeking to raise the taxes and to find sources of income to fund the machinery of government. Plain and simple. And so there are matters hidden in here that should rightfully be operating from our consolidated fund, where there is proper oversight, that will be bypassed through this piece of legislation. What I want to say, right, because we have in this country currently a government that operates like drunken sailors, spending the people's money wantonly, right, on cronyism, on nepotism, on wasteful government activities, and on political trickery. All of it is coming back to haunt us. So there is sufficient money, that is our position, in this country to properly fund. In fact, the boast is that the CIP revenues and other revenues, due to the competent, efficient, and effective management of this government, right, and the broadening of this economy, has raised so much money, okay, that actually the last budget said we were operating in a surplus. Last 3 budgets. But here we are, again, raising taxes. So walk with Malika. What is happening here, and the only thing I would agree with that was said, is that yes, it is a $10 increase, okay, on international passengers. And by the way, Senator Gavai, Antiguans will be equally affected, all right? International passengers means that you're traveling from one state to the other. Let me tell you how.
No.
You're not going to, listen to me, it's not based on your passport. Do you buy a ticket with your passport? Do you buy a ticket with your passport? Madam President, the Honorable Prime Minister stood in your lower house, your leader, and admitted, that it is relevant to Antiguan travelers. Maybe it's not. And these are some of the functional issues we have with this legislation. So listen to me. Listen to me, because we read it and we actually did the research. Madam President, there is a Principal Act of 2012, and the Principal Act is the Airport Administration Charge Act of 2012, number 3. Okay? The Airport Administrative Charge Act is an act to make provision for the establishment of an airport administration charge. Stick a pin there, because that is all that act was supposed to do. Make provisions for an airport administrative charge. In primary school, that means to get a charge for the administrative purposes of the airport. That's all that act was for. It has been totally corrupted and distorted. It has been turned into a slush fund, and Malek is going to tell you why. I do not speak loosely. Bear with me. So this act, the Principal Act, that was the purpose of the Principal Act. All right? And the charge shall be applied to facilitate the operational costs, capital expenditure, requisite for the maintenance and upkeep of our airport, the beautiful and best infrastructure that was so rightly stated, built on the United Progressive Party to great opposition by the Labour Party at the time. That structure, right? So this bill in 2012, again, passed by the United Progressive Party, with the foresight, oversight, and long-term view to fund the administrative cost of that edifice, okay? That is what we left. But it has, like many other things, been distorted and twisted to feed an insatiable appetite for money of this government. Okay? So, Madam President, let me tell you something, right? It happened my last debate. I sat in silent. Madam President.
Sorry, who are you telling something right? I don't know. I think you need to rephrase that. You're talking to the chair of the. Let me tell you something, right?
Madam President.
No. Let's start again.
I apologize. Madam President.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam President. I sat quietly in every debate, and I've listened to every member of the government benches. It's 15 none. They have 10 people over there, 4 over here. Every time I have gotten up to speak in this honorable house, since the first sit-in, I am interrupted on chorus without protection from the chair. I am not.
I'm going to take strong objection to that statement.
Okay.
Because there are many times, Senator, and I'm speaking, so you should be seated. There are many times that you are engaging them in the discourse. And I have sat here and allowed you. I've even said, y'all want me to walk out because I'm not needed. You cannot levy that accusation at my feet. The banter is something that is part of the process. If you need my protection, you ask for my protection. You don't tell me that I don't protect you. I protect everybody here that needs the protection. Even when they are making so much noise, sometimes I can't even hear their own persons presenting. So to say that I do not offer you protection is uncalled for and untrue. So you can take it back this morning, please.
Madam Chair.
Because I have sat here and see you engage in the banter yourself when you're seated and other persons are presenting. Watch what you say, please. If you need your protection, if they're too disruptive, then you let me know and I will stop them. And there are times that I will stop them. But you can't say you sit down there and me protect you. Start again.
Madam President.
And I'm not adding any time to your presentation.
Madam President, thank you for your clarification. I will accept that we have a difference of view. And the way I understand parliamentary procedure to be is that this is a right that I am afforded. I'm not begging for it, but that is fine. If we have a different operating protocol, I know now.
No, there's no different operating protocol, and you're not apologizing. You're trying to be.
What am I?
You're trying to, and you're talking, and I'm speaking, and you're still on your feet, and you're talking to me. I'm not in this exchange, madam. I'm not here to try and be nice and get everybody to approve. I'm going to make statements. I'm going to make rulings that people are not going to agree with, but that's fine. I'm the final arbiter. Parliamentary Procedure 101. What I'm saying to you, you cannot say that I do not offer you protection. And you cannot sit there when Hansard and ABS TV and radio can say that you have participated in the bantering. Don't do that. I'm not going to accept it. If it is that the disruptions are too much, you have that right to say, Madam President, I need your protection. There's nothing wrong in that. And when you say, Madam President, I need your protection, and I don't do anything, then you can levy the accusation at my feet. But there are times then you're presenting and you're still engaged. In fact, you look at them and you talk to them. You just said, you're a leader. You're supposed to be addressing the chair. I don't have no leader when I'm in this position. I'm the presiding officer here. So you are encouraging it as well.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything else on this.
Thank you,
Until
Madam
your
President.
presentation.
As my time moves on, I will move on. Thank you for your clarification on that. I will act accordingly. So the purpose of the Principal Act, Antiguans and Barbudans, that was implemented and left by the United Progressive Party, was a very narrow focus, which was to fund, as I would have stated, and I'm quoting from the Principal Act, okay, to facilitate the operational costs, capital expenditure, requisite for maintenance and upkeep of the airport, for the collection and management of the proceeds generated by the establishment of the charge, for the incidental and purposes connected, obviously, to the function of the airport. And so the first functional issue that we have with this amendment is this. Number one, this amendment seeks to increase the charge by $10, as you would have heard it, coming in, $10 going out, and $10 in transit. But when you look at it, Madam President, and you do the calculation, you will find that the airport itself receives less than half of that $10 charge that is being added. $3.50 is what the airport will end up with. Why? Because now this government in 2023 went and created what I am terming a slush fund, and if the time permits, I will show Antigua and Barbuda how and why it is a slush fund, where revenues go to die and disappear, never heard from again, right? And they have now expanded the use of that slush fund, which will
Madam President, a point of order.
Yes, Senator.
Madam President, the good senator on the other side is misleading, Madam President. How can she say that we have created a slush fund where the funds go into and have disappeared and never to be seen again? She has no proof of that, Madam President.
Madam President, that is why. What is the point of order? What is the point of, yeah. What is the point of order?
What is that you're misleading? There is no evidence before us to show where the slush fund is and that the money is coming in, going and disappearing. That is the point of order. Where is the truth? Where is the
Madam President.
Where is the support, Senator, of your statement? My goes on? For the records. Where's the support for your statement?
Madam President,
that the money goes in and disappears.
Madam President, I am in the middle of my presentation. That's what I'm doing. And in anything, I sat here in our last debate and listened to a lot of artful language that was thrown from the other side related to the UPP's tenure in office. That is a matter of their opinion, and they presented no facts. None. None. A lot of artful and colorful language.
Can somebody in the legal drafts team explain to Senator Parker what I am saying to her? I don't know what happened this morning. I really don't know what's... Senator Hughes, can you explain to your colleague what I'm saying? If you make a statement that there is money going into a fund that's disappearing, nobody knows where it goes to, and there's a member that stands up and says, where is the evidence? You're misleading, and you can tell me we must wait, and you hear something from the last Senate. That's the answer? That's the response? No, you advance to your position, wherever you have it in your presentation, and say, Madam President, I'm coming to, in fact, I will deal with it. No. So show me now, else.
Madam President, in the interest of time, I will move on. And I will jump to the Climate Resilience Fund. That is the fund I'm speaking about.
And so that means that you're withdrawing the statement?
No, I'm not. I am presenting you with the evidence.
I beg your pardon, what did you say?
I am advancing my debate.
Are you withdrawing? There's a point of objection I'm ruling on. Are you withdrawing the statement because you say you're moving on?
I am advancing my debate to show you why
No. Senator Parker, I don't know what happened to you this morning, but I think let me just refresh your mind. Again, somebody rises on a point of order, and I uphold the point of order. It means that the person who is speaking has to, A, support or show why the point of order should not be upheld, B, withdraw the point of order, or C, sit down and shut up and done for the day. Now, I don't think you've concluded your presentation, and so I'm expecting that one of the two options that aforementioned would be chosen. So, are you withdrawing your statement, or are you showing us where in your presentation you have the evidence to support your statement? Simple as A or B.
Madam President,
I don't want to hear you, Senator Hughes. You're not on the floor.
Madam President,
you're not on the floor, Senator Hughes.
I rise on a point of
order. I am ruling on a point of order. I can't hear no more point of order until this one done.
But Madam President,
Mr. Senator Hughes, no, that wasn't rhetorical. It's just rhetorical.
It was rhetorical?
Same way I look at these members on Senator Hughes, I am speaking and I don't want to stand up today.
Somebody is really, really angry.
And you will withdraw that statement. That will be struck from the record, whatever statement you said there. I don't know what's happening today. I really don't know. Maybe we need another prayer, Rev. Maybe we should start again and have another prayer, because I don't know. I'm not in a fight today. I'm not in a fight. I just want to get us to do the work. I have said, unless it is that Senator Parker can show the evidence in support of the statement that money goes into a fund and it disappears, she has to withdraw the statement. That is the order, that is the point of order that was stood and raised, and I am speaking. What is so difficult in comprehending that when the presiding officer is speaking, that you are to be quiet? It's in the standing orders. Let me point it out to you.
My time is going. I'm not taking it back.
I didn't ask anybody for any intervention, you know. I don't know, Parliamentary Procedure 101 again. And even though it is 101 or 1, the final arbiter is the presiding officer. I've ruled on the matter. You're taking it back, you're withdrawing it, that is, or you're presenting the evidence, Senator Parker. What are you doing, Senator Parker?
Madam President, from the second time I took the floor, again I said, I will show you.
And I'm saying show me now, because the point of order is raised now.
And that is what I'm doing.
No, you said you were going on with your presentation.
To the point to show you.
Oh, you didn't say that initially.
Perhaps
your colleagues have whispered to you now.
What I said.
I'm not arguing, me not argue nobody now. And him and in here for argue. I'm not here to argue.
But she said that.
That's what
I am not here to argue. I did not hear that. Okay. Had I heard that, I would have had a different response. I would have allowed you to say it. But you didn't say that. And the Hansard is there, so don't try pull nothing over my eye. And for the last time when me talk, nobody else is supposed to be speaking, and you shouldn't even be on your feet, and your back is turned to me. What's the disrespect this morning? What's going on?
Oh, man.
Come on, man.
Madam President, I apologize on both accounts.
Come on. Okay, so let's get back to order. Senator Parker, you say you were going to bring to the House the explanation. Please show the House the explanation so I can conclude on the matter of the objection raised by Senator Shaw.
Madam President, I wish to apologize to you if my actions are coming across as disrespect or otherwise disregard for the chair. That is absolutely not my intention. In fact, I am actually very refreshed that this is the tone we want to set for the parliamentary debate. So I will act accordingly. The slush fund to which I referred was the Climate Resilience Development Fund. And that is a special fund, Madam President, that was created by way of regulations, which means it never came to this Honorable House. It was created in 2023 as a statutory instrument. To me, that is the first offense. Right? By regulations under the Finance Administration Act. It was Regulation 3 of the Finance Administration Resilience Climate Fund. Okay? Statutory instrument. It happened back in November 2023. And this is the error we make when we come here and think, oh, these little amendments and these little statutory instruments are inconsequential and non-controversial and so on. And people don't do the homework and peel back the layers. And that is what this Honorable House is about. And I am going to do it. So that fund was created without parliamentary oversight. That is the first thing. Now,
sorry, could you repeat this SI number?
Number 45 of 2023. Okay? And so it was created by ministerial regulations alone and not by an act of parliament. All right. Now, who capitalizes the Climate Resilience Development Fund? I bet you nobody on the other side can tell us how this fund gets money, or neither can they tell us what that money is being used for. Neither can they show us any type of report or audited statements related to the operation of this fund. They cannot. Because no such paper, no such report, no such audited statement has ever come to this Honorable House, or, by the way, because Maleka took the time, has not even appeared in the budgets of this country as it is encapsulated here. I could not find it in the budget. Where is the Climate Development Resilience Fund? Where is it?
Madam President, point of order.
Yeah, sorry, Senator Brown, what is your point of order?
Madam President, the Senator Maleka Parker, speak about the slush fund, and she's asking questions pertaining to the regulations.
What's the point of order?
Yes.
Hold on, the regulations.
State the point of order.
The point of order, she's misleading the House.
You can't just get up on point of order in here.
She's misleading the House. Are you the chair? Are you the chair? You sit in the chair?
Senator Hughes.
You're coming here. You
oh, Senator Brown, if you're going to go there, it's best you take your seat, Jack. Not this morning.
Yes, go ahead.
Not this morning.
Go ahead.
Senator Parker, turn off your microphone.
A slush fund, Madam President, is a serious allegation. A very serious allegation. Parliament creates the legal authority. If Parliament passes that act, the authorities, the minister who make the regulations about the administration of a fund, when the fund is still rooted in legislation enacted by Parliament.
He's debating, Madam President. What is going on? What is going on?
She is misleading the House.
I am not.
How?
I just told
that is your opinion, and you can state it when you get up to debate.
I just told you.
That is what a debate is about.
Come on, man.
Debate it.
Madam President,
what is happening?
You can look at any act.
Senator, y'all can give me the time to
Respond.
respond to the objection, please. I have to beg you all now. So, light is on? Okay. Senator Brown, I went through a long period of time trying to understand to which fund the good senator was referring to. She said I didn't allow her to explain as she was about to explain. Now she's explaining that when she refers to the slush fund, she's referring to this fund, and she's established the basis. You have to then allow for the rebuttal, if you can show otherwise, that this is not operating the way she's alleging it to be operating. If you can show that it was in the budget. Hansard can hear me. You can hear me, Senator Brown? Okay. If you can show that all of what she said is existing contrary to what she's saying, you do that in your presentation. She has said she's referring to this fund. There's a light, can't be what I'm seeing there. Members in the gallery, there should be no flash photography. And members who have served in this house should know better. I don't know. Father Pierre, you want to go outside and anoint the doors for me now? Do some anointing this morning, Jack, because I don't know what's going on today. The prayer wasn't powerful enough. Senator Brown, I think I have to allow the senator to explain. She's established, laid her foundation. If you have a rebuttal position when you come to speak, you can deal with it, or any member of the House can deal with it. But I think she's clearly established that a reference to the slush fund that we're wondering that goes in and out, she's laying the foundation. The two of you, the same one that says she sit down there quietly and don't disturb this house, and I'm trying to rule on the point out, and you having y'all back and forth. Y'all don't need me. Go ahead, Senator Parker.
Thank you, Madam President.
Father, whisper quiet prayer there. Knock on the door again.
Thank you, Madam President. The Climate Resilience Development Fund, as I've stated, Madam President, and my colleagues on the other side, I'm saying that, okay, none of the budget statements presented to this House has properly done what a budget statement is supposed to do with a fund like this. And I'm going to jump forward again. Where does the money from the Climate Development Fund come from? This is what I found out. Okay? It's supposed to come from a tourism guest levy that was enacted back in 2021. The fund also supposed to get a piece of money from the revenue recovery charge. Who knew that? The revenue recovery charge, okay? And now the airport administrative charge, which it started getting money from that source as well a few years back. Now, in our budgets, there is a line item which tells us that the tourism guest levy, which is a substantial tax source, because if we will recall, I think this is where the government had increased the 2%, and the 2% ABSD tax goes straight to the Tourism Authority, right? Okay, Madam President, I can stand corrected on that, but there is a source. Make a note of that for me, please, Chester, if you can. Right? They can. What am I not sure about?
Yeah, but she said she's not sure. Let's move on.
Madam President, let me clarify again. What I'm talking about is the tourism guest levy. Okay? And so maybe I'm getting the nomenclature incorrect. Okay? That is all. That is all. But the tourism guest levy provides about over $25 million a year to this country. That levy alone. You understand? And The revenue recovery charge, which we know is charged down at customs, is also millions upon millions of dollars. And there's a percentage of that that is supposed to be going into this Climate Resilient Development Fund. So that is already a lot of money. Plus what the Tourism Authority or the Airport Authority is contributing to this fund. What I am saying, okay, is that given what we know and what I could have found in the budget, over $25 million for the tourism guest levy. The revenue recovery charge is $116 million or something like that. I do not know what percentage of that goes into the Climate Resilient Development Fund. I don't know, right? And
point of order.
What is going on?
What is your point of Senator Parker, could you sit and let me hear the point of order? Please turn off your microphone. Senator Donahue?
Yes, the tourism levy, guest levy, that she would have mentioned, specifically states exactly where that levy funds, what it funds. That goes directly into all of the marketing efforts that the Antigua Barbuda Tourism Authority engages in, any and everything tourism-based. That's exactly. So to line it up with the Climate Resilience Fund, that is not correct.
She said she didn't know.
So then don't mention it.
No, I can't allow that.
Madam Chair,
I can't. Oh gosh, sit down, please. Let me finish. Let me finish. Let me do my work. Let me do my work, please. Listen. It's listen. Come on, man. Oh my word. I didn't have pepper today, though. I don't like pepper. Pepper is not my favorite thing. I don't mind a little spice, you know, but it can be overbearing, and I think right now it's overbearing. Senator Donahue, she said she didn't know. She said, no, you can't say that. She's delivering, and she says she's not sure where it goes. So if you know, if you are aware, when you rise, you are able to expound on it and say where it is, where she can find it. You can let the public know where it goes. She said, I don't know. That's why I'm posing the question. I don't know what percentage. I listen, you know, you have here don't listen, and so you when I'm talking, and so that's why my brain can't shut off, because I have to practice for this kind of peppery exchange today. So I'm listening. She says she don't know. That's why she's raising it. And she has a problem with the bill because I don't know where this is going and what percentage goes there. If you know, members on the opposite bench or whichever bench you're sitting on, you know, you bring it to the fore when you get your opportunity to do so. Are we good? Senator Parker, please continue. By the way, you all realize Senator Parker is the one with the hour today. Just so you know, it's not half an hour, she has an hour. Senator Parker, I hope what you're reading there on your phone is relative to what you're debating. And you're not on record because your light isn't illuminated. So let's proceed. Thank you.
Yes, Madam President, thank you very much. Madam President, I am stating categorically that the monies, and let me clarify, what I said I did not know was the exact amount of monies that go in. But I am not under any confusion that the tourism guest levy also goes into that fund. That is not what I do not know. It's not what I do not know. And Madam President, and the people of this country, because I have been very diligent in my stewardship of any position that I am in. I do not aim to mislead anybody. I do not care to conflate issues. For what? For what? So I am very much open to correction and guidance. This is why I can stand here, and when I don't know or I am unsure, I say that. And what I said I was not sure about is the percentage of money that comes from the RRC into the fund. I'm not sure about that. And I'm saying that. What I would like, if they're going to stand up on a point of order to correct me and to assist me, is stand up and tell me where the Climate Resilience Fund gets its money from, because that's my point. My point is, no, not the point of, my point is, Madam President, and my prevailing point, lest we miss it, is that nobody on that side, before they come here today, and Maleka raised this issue, where that fund gets its money from. They did not know, and nobody cared to check. That's my point. And what I'm also saying is that the oversight mechanism that is required, right, that I think is fair, that this government should come and present to us with this amendment, that you want more money for the fund, right? We need to know what are the statements of the fund, how much money has the fund gotten to date, and what climate resilient project or development initiatives have you undertaken with that money. It is not a non-contentious amendment, it's a highly contentious amendment, because we do not have information. And I am further saying that the budget of Antigua and Barbuda, since 2023, when this fund was established, I, Maleka, was unable to find in our budget the official Appropriations Act being laid before this Parliament for approval year after year after year, right? Any heading that speaks to a climate resilience development fund. And ostensibly, my colleagues, millions and millions and millions of dollars are going into it. And we're here today to pass another set of money to go into it again. And we cannot okay that. We are not going to assent to that in good conscience. We cannot. So that is, I've jumped forward for that point. I have no idea. I'm going to move quickly. I'm going to move quickly, Madam President. Madam President, I'm moving quick. Madam President, the other conceptual issue, because I kind of jump over some of the functional points, but there's some functional things in the bill. If I have time, I come to that. The other conceptual issue is that the Honorable Prime Minister, in his presentation of this bill in the lower house, said that the genesis of this increase to our airport administrative charge was coming out of a meeting for the ECCA, for ECA, right? It's 2 A's actually, right, for ECA, right? And we need clarity on that, because subsequently, the release from the, before that, on June 25th, the government, Morris press attaché, told us that this was strictly a government initiative, okay, to increase the passenger head tax, to raise funds for regional institutions. Now, again, when I checked the ECA reports, which are public for everyone, that seemed to be coming out of a meeting of ECA back all the way in 2020, where ECA did, in fact, discuss the need for sustainable funding, and the Prime Minister admitted that Antigua was far behind in its contributions. Again, another deficit in what we're here to do. How far behind are we? Why does this government not provide information to the people of this country and to this honorable house? Sufficient, proper, all of the information? How much money we owe to ECA? Okay, we don't know. So when I check back in 2020, I am saying that the Prime Minister's statement falls far from what happened in that meeting. Because yes, they spoke about sustainable funding, but there's no way captured that they said that that funding has to come from raising taxes at the airport. Could never happen. And when I checked the regional governments, there's no other government that has done that. None since 2020. And I think that is misleading. And this is why I call this bill the 3D bill. Deceptive, desperate, and dangerous. That's why I call it that. Right? Because he would have us believe that it is some type of regional mandate that all of the countries came together and decided on. And it is plainly not so. Okay? And so I'm going to jump to ECHA now. Because why are we raising or taking 6.25% of the money to fund ECHA? And how much money is that likely to be? Would ECHA be oversubscribed by that point? Where is ECHA currently getting its funding from? Are we taking it from the consolidated funds? I would like to know. My research says that ECHA already gets what they call NAVCOM fees, right? Which is navigation and communication fees that are assigned to ECHA. All of those fees that we collect under that heading go already to ECHA. And I am saying to this honorable House, right, and to the people of this country, no other regional government has increased. In fact, St. Lucia, not too long ago, reduced the airport administrative charge. Governments are making it easier for travelers and passengers and trying to make their destinations more attractive. Cheaper. And we're busy passing tax to fund things that our consolidated fund is supposed to do with proper oversight. The other excuse, so that we just broad brush this bill, is that it is also supposed to fund the Supreme Court. Madam President, I am saying again, the purpose of this act in 2012 was very simple. And it was to fund the operations of the airport. The airport is now over 10 years old, in need of maintenance and upkeep and expansion. Where is that money going to come from? And I would even dare say that if they brought a piece of legislation with nothing else in it, right, but an increase to fund the airport authority, that would be good. But guess what? We would still want to know what the airport authority has been doing with all the money it has been collected to date. Because we have not seen those audited statements. I met a lot of things on my desk. Right? I don't know if it is in there. Right? But we need to get accustomed to accounting for the people's money and to do it in a systematic way and in a transparent way. And we need to also get accustomed to respecting this honorable House, because we're passing laws that have great effect, right, on the trajectory of this nation. And I am not going to take it for granted. And I'm saying that the airport authority, okay, we cannot say with any surety that the monies they're already receiving is not sufficient. We do not know what the maintenance schedule plan. I mean, we just come and say we need more money, and we just give more money, and people can see the wastage of government resources all over the place. That everybody now work for government. Everybody work for government. When 12 years ago...
Madam President, point of order. Madam President...
What is your point of order?
The good senator is free to have a debate, but she's saying when we can see the government wastage all over Antigua and Barbuda, it would be very nice if she could tell us about it, name it.
Listen, this level of sensitivity, you hear me, Madam President, I appreciate.
But I don't understand why you keep responding to the points of order. Allow me now.
Point FM, when nobody can answer you.
Senator Shaw, what was your point of order, please?
Madam President, the good senator is talking about the wastage that can be seen all over Antigua and Barbuda. Well, no problem now. What wastage? That's misleading. Again, without facts. That's what they do on a regular, daily basis, Madam President.
Senator Parker, would you like to rephrase the term, the phrase that you use to describe what is happening?
Madam President, listen. If this is going
listen,
to be,
last
what am I going to?
But let me tell you what, because last sitting, there was an objection raised to what has been a conventional practice in this Honorable House for years, many moons. And I was shocked that it was raised, but I had to, it was raised and it was valid, right? So if it is that we're now transcending to that level, that every little thing that might offend the rules we're going to be objecting to, I have to listen to them and I have to rule on them. So if the honourable member is asking for proof of the wastage and what exactly you're speaking about, I have to listen to him. Because last time, you know, they say you can't now say in the House, wicked set of people or wickedness. When that was populating this, both this and the lower house for centuries. I say centuries, just to give it a sense of how long it's been. Senator Hughes just used it too. Yeah, no, in here, Hansard could tell you, you'll look it up and you see wickedness. We had one senator, you have your colleagues, former senators, I can tell you, those are terms that were brandished about, but it's unparliamentary. And that was the first time anybody objected to it, because both sides used it. So if it is that I had to uphold that one, I can uphold every other one. So whether you're petty or not in your mind, it's a valid point.
Madam President, I'm eager to finish so that my other colleagues and the senators...
So you're responding to the objection, how?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, Madam President. Madam President, I am not taking back my statement. Number one, how much example I need? One is enough?
Yes.
All right. So here we are, resurfacing and repaving Sydney Walling Highway again, for the 4th time, and maybe 7th time. And I can jump to many other roads. Me just give one. Right? That is wastage. Whole ton of wastage. Madam President, during the election that just went, where I think we don't know how much trailer, a plywood, and this and that came into this country. Where it is. Where it is.
You see, this is why I'm sad that we've transcended to this level.
Madam President, because
oh my goodness, mercy
you asked me to give
No, I said I am sad, so I'm speaking.
Example.
I'm speaking, Senator Barker. I'm saying I'm sad that we've transcended to this level that we're at, because we have the opportunity to respond in when we speak to the allegations levied, when we start saying that even the simplest thing like wickedness is objectionable, or wastage, which is in the context of the political sphere of things, is language that is used, but when it comes to parliamentary, we need support. Every little thing is going to be nitpicked on. So where are we going to draw the line? We're setting the precedent for continuing to debate. If we do this, then every single thing that offends is going to come across as objectionable, and you're going to be asking me to rule on the matter, and then how far do we get with the people's business? Here's what I'm suggesting, that if you make a statement that there's wastage, then you have to say wastage, because when we started off, we had $200 expenditure. We now have $500 expenditure. There's no explanation as to why. Or we've spent $800 on A when it should have been $200, and there's no explanation why. So there's clearly, Madam President, you can assume that there's wastage. That's so difficult to do? Is that difficult to do, everybody? I don't know. It's such a challenge. I don't know that that is difficult. The rules say if you make the statement, you should be able to support it with, Lord of mercy. Senator Jones, you now join the fray? Oh my. Did you understand what I'm trying to say? Thank you very much. I feel like I'm alone in the wilderness today. I didn't get the pepper sauce, and I really feel like I'm alone in the wilderness, and I'm fighting. I'm not trying to fight, but I want the people to hear you because you're here to represent the people's interest. I want you to do it effectively. I want us to be productive. But this is not productivity in any form or fashion. But if you make a statement that there's wastage all around, you have to back it up. And if you cannot back it up, then you have to withdraw it. Senator Shaul, oh my word.
Sorry, Madam President. Am I to continue? I don't know.
What are you continuing to say? The wastage? The evidence of the wastage? Because you're saying that the resurfacing is wastage. It doesn't necessarily mean the resurfacing is wastage. I mean that they had to do it over. Maybe they didn't. I mean, there's so many factors that could be. I could go the gamut of it. I mean,
exactly.
But what are we doing here? That's what I'm asking you. What are we doing here? I don't want you to make a broad-based statement that there's wastage and there's no evidence to support it. So if you are saying there's wastage in, for instance, XYZ, and you can show me the wastage in, for instance, XYZ, I'll listen. But you can't make a broad-based statement and go, all the wastage around the place, and then don't show the evidence of the wastage. And because you think that this might be wasted, doesn't necessarily mean it's wastage. You see, that's what I'm saying is the allegations. There's a loose language you use politically that y'all are now saying that is objectionable. I can't believe that you're still a talk. So, Senator, if you don't have the evidence, withdraw the statement, finish up, wrap up. You have 6, 7. Let me count, Jack. 7:50. 10 minutes. Yes, because she's entertaining some of them. And some of them, I've added back her time, you know. I really have. I've added back the time for those that I've not supported. Okay.
Madam President, thank you very much for your generosity. Madam President.
Which means that you are, in relation to the statement of wastage, doing what?
I am providing a perspective, as I've heard yours, and I've heard Senator Shaul's.
As you've heard my ruling?
What is your ruling?
It's not a perspective, it's a ruling.
Madam President, it cannot be that we come to this honorable house, right, to have debates on matters of national importance, and there is this level of nitpicking and sensitivity.
You should have said that to your colleague last week. And I'm ruling, and this is the last I'm saying, because you're coming back every time I make a ruling.
Madam President, I gave you my example.
No,
It is not. Let Public Works come.
Senator, take your seat.
And say why
take your
it
seat,
is not.
Senator. Take your seat.
That is my example.
Take your seat. Take your seat. Take your seat. Take your seat. This is my ruling on the objection. You even provide the facts, not your opinion on whether there's wastage or not, but statistical data that shows the wastage, or withdraw the statement or conclude your presentation. That's the ruling. I have nothing else to say on the matter. I'm not arguing with anybody. I stopped trying to help people. Just follow through on the ruling.
Madam President, when you say statistical data, so for example, I have data that many of the houses that was done by National Housing have to be redone. There are tiles that are popping out of the floor through poor construction, bathrooms that have to be remodeled.
You're making additional presentation. Senator Parker, sit down.
What are you telling me? It's wastage.
Thank you for concluding your presentation this morning because you're not listening to me. I do not want to exercise the powers I have under the standing order. This is the third time I'm speaking to you on the matter. You either withdraw the statement, present the statistical data, not just from your, because I don't have anything in front of me. You haven't even said, Madam President, here's the data. You can look at it and see. And then I can say, listen, I have the evidence. It is located XYZ. Senator O'Neill, come back. Standing order says you're not supposed to be moving when I'm speaking. Go back to your seat. Go back to your seat. Everybody wants to be petty today. I'm going to be petty too. I'm not hearing you, Senator Buena. Oh, you're ready to make a contribution. Let me finish my statement. It's the last opportunity I'm giving to Senator Parker to conclude her statement. I've ruled on the order, the point of order, the objection. The statement that you made about wastage is to be withdrawn, or the statistical data presented now to show where the wastage examples are, or you conclude your statement now, your presentation. Final position is that. I don't want to hear anything else other than in respect of those three issues. Thank you. Senator Parker.
Madam President, I wish to comply with you. When you say statistical information, I want to understand what it means. So, for example, because clearly I did not come prepared to do
Right,
this.
so don't make the statement.
No, Madam
If you don't have this,
President,
if you
see
don't
this?
have the data,
Let
don't
me
make the
speak.
statement. If you don't have the data, you ask for clarity. If you don't have the data, don't make the statement. Move
Madam
on.
President, I was
Move
able
on.
to pull up on my phone
Move on.
a number of court cases against the government related to national housing and poor work. Is that
Poor work
statistical
is not
data?
wasted. Poor work is not wasted.
Okay,
You're stretching.
I withdraw.
And we're going on, and we're
I
wasting the
withdraw.
people's time. Move on. Senator, people want to hear you now, but not this. They want to hear you, but not this.
Not what?
Let's move on.
What have I done? Madam President, I've withdrawn it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your encouragement as well.
Let's move on, yes. Thank you.
Yes. So, in conclusion, Madam President, I wish to say that we will not support the amendment to this piece of legislation. I repeat that it is deceptive in its intent. I think that it is a desperate move by the government to collect more monies, some of it through means and measures that will not have parliamentary oversight and caretakership. I further said that it is dangerous. It is dangerous because the purpose of the airport administrative charge was very clear. And it has now been distorted and twisted until it is unrecognizable. And we should stop it now. If there is a need to fund regional institutions, those generally come through the Consolidated Fund, or we come to Parliament and we make provisions, or the government through its policies tell us what those provisions are going to be. And we would prefer it be in streams that are not opaque and where accounting can be sufficiently given to the people of this country. Lastly, Madam President, and again I say that it is wrong for the government to bring legislation to increase taxes upon people without justifying the use of monies, millions of dollars, that have gone before for the very said purposes. And it would be irresponsible of us to support that, if it pleases you.
Senator Wendell, you still want to go now, or you're waiting? Senator Donahue.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, I rise to make my contribution in support of our bill, but before I even go into explaining exactly why this bill is so important, let me first begin by clarifying that this is a charge and not a tax. We need to be careful with our language here in the upper house. I mean, especially for persons of legal mind, we know the importance of language and what it can connotate. But you know, Madam President, throughout the debate we would have just heard, there was a lot of talk of fiscal responsibility and irresponsibility and wastage. But if you will allow me to remind this Honorable House of the type of fiscal irresponsibility under the previous administration. Because, Madam President, in 2010, the debt to GDP
Madam
under the
President, on a
previous
point of
administration.
order. Madam President, on a point of order, can the honourable member show me where in this bill, because you've guided Senator Parker earlier on the issue of fiscal responsibility and whether or not that is the case. We're not debating UPP's term in office, Madam President. We're debating an act which deals with certain specific revenues. So let us deal and stick to the bill. Madam President, please ask the member to stick to the bill and the relevance of what she's speaking.
Madam President,
Not today. Not today at all. I don't know what the expectation is, but again, I'm reminded that I think the address was to me, right? And I am supposed to respond. I think that's how it is. And then we move forward from there. Senator Jones, you're in here a long time. Tell me, so you go? That's how it's supposed to go. Senator O'Donoghue, I do agree with Senator Hughes that the bill before us is in respect of the amendment and not fiscal mismanagement. If it is that during your presentation you'd like to make a comparison with the management system that is in place under this administration to what was prior, then fine. But the bill before us is the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill 2026. Let's start there and see how we move forward, please.
thank you, Madam President, and I'll try to ensure that this presentation sticks to the bill. So, in that breath, I would like to remind the upper house that the bill specifically states what a portion of this charge is going to. When I refer to subsection B, 50% of the revenue collected under subsection 2 shall be allocated primarily to the enhancement of civil aviation, air transport, regional integration, and other related matters. And I begin there because there was a lot of talk regarding where the monies are going to and how can we really support it if we don't know. And I'm going to first begin with airport infrastructure, because I want to remind the upper house that the airport that we have, the highly celebrated airport that we have, has just undergone and is currently undergoing one of the most significant upgrades it has ever seen since its opening. Madam President, at approximately US $50 million, we are seeing a rehabilitation and an expansion of our airfield and our runway. And this is not just some cosmetic work, because when you see the thousands of passengers coming through our airport, and by the way, if I must interject here, do you know that we have had a 5% increase in arrivals in 2026 compared to 2025? Madam President, tourism is flourishing in Antigua and Barbuda. And I'm happy to provide the evidence if so needed be.
Yes.
But you see, this particular rehabilitation program didn't just happen overnight. But most importantly, it requires consistent maintenance, especially if you want to maintain a safe airport and an airport that meets international compliance. We have to be international compliant, especially based on everything that we're hosting here in Antigua and Barbuda. KC, this administration doesn't just build projects and turn our back and look away. This is not a car park. We will consistently maintain it, but we have to maintain it through funding. Now, when we talk about this $50 million, I'm going to refer to a press release issued by the Antigua and Barbuda Airport Authority earlier this year. And what that type of work went into and is going into the airport. Because again, we want to know where the money is going. How are we financing the type of expansion and infrastructural needs that the airport, specifically what this airport administrative charge is going towards? Again, the Honorable House, it already states it in the bill. It's not open-ended, it states it right there. So right here, we would have seen that so far we would have had the construction of a new expanded runway 25 third pad. Design using the Airbus as a reference for the aircraft that can be landed there and parked there. The installation of new runway end lights, runway edge lighting, and turn pad edge lighting. We have established a dedicated blast pad. I want to remind the House, all of this is happening right now in Antigua at a cost of just about US $50 million. It has to be financed somehow. We didn't just build the airport and left it there. We didn't just build the airport and turn our back. This also continues. We have implemented the implementation of a compliant runway and safety area. The construction of a perimeter service road along the aerodrome boundary. And the addition of an ICAO recommended surface marketing, including blast pads and traverse turning for the turn pad shoulders. The level of work and cost that has gone into this can account right here. On budget, as a matter of fact, I am happy to announce it's going to come out in some new media releases that this is about.
What is your point of order, Senator Weno?
I just want to remind the good senator that when we refer to articles, press releases, whatever it is, documentation, they have to be circulated to the House. Just a reminder to just, Madam President, the standing orders require for us to circulate whatever it is we're referring to. So I'm just reminded to circulate because I don't have the privilege of seeing that, Madam President, while she's referring to it. Thank you very much.
Senator O'Donoghue, remind us again, the press statement was issued on what date? And you said it was issued by the authority? The general principle and the convention has been that if you're going to be referencing documents, you are to circulate them. And if you're referencing statutes, you should really have them available so that we all can have access to it, statutory instruments. Because sometimes, I mean, you're referencing a SI or a legislative provision that's a long time ago, you know. But insofar as the material that you're using as your source material, you should really present it to the clerk, have the reference available for all of us. And sometimes time doesn't allow, but once the clerk has it, we'll be able to make copies if members want and can use during the presentation or during the debate. But citing the source is of critical importance. So if you have the press statement, refer to the date it was issued, where it was published, and then send Sarge. I can send Sarge for it. If the opposition bench would like a copy, we can get the clerk office to make a copy for the members. That is the convention. It goes for both ways. Okay, Senator Wenner? Thank you, Senator Donahue. So just let us know the citation.
Thank you, Madam President.
And Sarge will come for the copy if you have it.
Yes. So this press release was issued on the 19th of February 2026. The press release was issued by the Antigua and Barbuda Airport Authority, and this same press release was replicated in all legitimate media houses in Antigua and Barbuda. Hence, and please, I stress on all legitimate media houses in Antigua and Barbuda. I'll be sure to present a copy of this press release to yourself, and it can be shared to all of the honorable members, and they too can fact check for any news release regarding this, if that pleases you. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
You're not showing no evidence now.
I'm good. Yeah.
You're not showing no evidence up to now. Not one thing you show. No evidence.
Thank you.
You're not taking a break for that. It's okay. The office will get it sorted. It's okay. Go ahead, Senator Donahue.
Yes, Madam President. So I quoted that to give an idea of the level of work that's happening right now at the V.C. Bird International Airport, work that has been consistent, and due to the excellent work of our contractors, we are actually ahead of time. Completion of the rehabilitation of the runway is expected to be completed by September 1, 2026. And I use this opportunity to say congratulations to the hard work and the dedicated workers at the Antigua and Barbuda Airport Authority that has allowed our airport, our international airport, to be one of the safest and one of the largest international airports within the OACS. Now, as I said, Madam President, airports are not static facilities, and they're going to require continuous upgrades. Of course, we all know that airports are becoming smarter all over the world. We have aircraft that are also becoming larger. So we must be able to consistently compete in a growing world in the aviation industry. So when we talk about this airport administrative charge amendment and this increase on this charge, and again, it's a charge and it's not a tax, I want the people of Antigua and Barbuda to understand that clearly. It is a charge on international passengers, arriving passengers, international departing passengers, right there. This does not affect regional travel. This does not affect travel between Antigua and Barbuda. I know there's some out there who may want to cloud the information, but please understand what exactly the bill contains. Now, international passengers. Anyone that flies in internationally, right there. This is what it affects, not regional travel, because, you know, we're all for regional integration. And we want to ensure, especially because we have one of the safest airlines, Liat Air Flying, that we can continue to service all of our destinations within our brothers and sisters across the Caribbean. Now, Madam President, I know we would have also touched on the support to the regional institutions. And we are very proud to be the host of ECA, the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority. So much so that we would have ensured that they are outfitted with the best premises to serve the important role that they serve. We'd have recently opened up new offices up at the airport, fully furnished, and I know it was all over the news when that happened. Our Director General of ECA can now say that he is in a building that is fully equipped to service members within ECA, with, of course, the intention to have a dedicated place for them. This is our commitment as a responsible government to regional institutions. And it is even more important because not just Antigua and Barbuda, but for all of the countries within the OACS is working actively to achieve Category 1 status. That would not only just benefit Antigua, it will benefit everybody within the OACS. So why should we shy away from our responsibility, our leadership, our duty to ensure that this regional institution is properly serviced and properly financed? That cannot be problematic. And the fact that we come in this honorable house and to call it wastage or to call it slush, or to have all these aspirations against it. It's a crisis slap in the face of what we're trying to do when it comes to aviation security in Antigua and Barbuda. Madam President, again, when we look at what the airport does for us, we have to ensure that the airport is ready for the type and increase of passengers that it facilitates on a daily, weekly, monthly manner. And we can't do that by simply building it and letting it go to waste. We can't simply just say, listen, okay, it is here. $50 million, find a way to pay it back, no problem. And to be very clear, the Airports Authority is a highly audited authority, because that is one of the main reasons why they were able to negotiate that $100 million loan in the first place. We don't go about just giving out loans of that magnitude to institutions that aren't fiscally responsible. And I'm going into, and I hope I can now have the opportunity to give my comparison when it comes to administrations being fiscally responsible. Because there were certain statements that were made consistently in the prior debate that painted a picture as if monies are coming in and monies are going out and nobody knows where they're going to. That is not the case. We're talking about national housing. We have never seen a housing revolution in this country like before now. We're talking about roads. We've never seen a road network built out in this country like never before. You're talking about increasing education. I know, and I see my good senator over there smiling. The University of the West Indies, 5 Islands, is here to service all of us, and I'm so proud of the honorable members that are sitting here today who would have benefited from it being right here in Antigua and Barbuda. That is being fiscally responsible. Absolutely. Between the years of 2010 and 2014, we were looking at a debt to GDP of just over 100%. 2010 alone was at 92%.
Meantime, they pretend they're doing something. They pretend they're not listening.
No, but these were the statements that were being made, and the general public is listening. We have to be responsible with the communication that we have in here. The discussions that we have in here leads and forms public opinion. The news agencies are listening and they're replicating everything that we see in here. So we have to be responsible with the information we give here. So we talk about being fiscally responsible. Let us remind this honorable house that in 2026, Antigua and Barbuda can enjoy a debt to GDP of just about 60%. That is being a responsible government.
This is the universal threshold.
This, at this airport administration charge, this US $10 increase to ensure that we can continue to maintain one of the most important port of entries in Antigua and Barbuda, so we can continue to maintain one of the most important regional institutions within CARICOM, that we continue to increase and make sure that we meet our obligations, so everything associated with aviation is one of the best things we can table today. And Madam President, again, and I lead to what Madam Leader would have said in her opening statements. This is not a contentious bill. We don't have to come in here and fight now. We don't have to come in here and pretend that this is some kind of political platform. Elections done gone. There are no brownie points to score in here right now. 15-1 for the next 5 years. Let us come here and do the work. The good work for the people of Antigua and Barbuda. Let's look at the bills presented here. Let us be honest with the contents of the bills. Let us not bring the what-ifs, the whataboutism, suppose this, suppose that. No. Let us just be very explicit and honest in what we present to the people of Antigua and Barbuda. And with that, Madam President, I rest and I say that this bill should go through without any more contention. It doesn't have to be very long-winded, so we can move on with the very long day that I know we have ahead of us. And with that, I thank you, Madam President.
Senator Bueno.
Good morning, Madam President. Oh, dear me. Good afternoon. Wow. Madam President, I rise to make my contribution to the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill of 2026. Madam President, I'm going to be brief in my contribution. Senator Parker would have mentioned quite a few things, and I know the other opposition members who would mention other things as well too. But I want to speak. Oh, let me pull it closer. Is this any better? Okay, no problem. Now, Madam President, I just want to first start off by saying I'm very pleased, Madam President, that members on both sides of the House and several members on the government bench would have mentioned that we have one of the best airports in the Caribbean, Madam President. We have one of, they said, I believe, one of the largest airports in the Caribbean, Madam President, an airport that can facilitate so many tourist arrivals and all these kind of things, Madam President. And Madam President, I just want to remind the people of Antigua and Barbuda that it was the administration under Dr. the Honorable Winston Baldwin Spencer who would have built that airport that this current administration is now praising. So I'm happy that in this Honorable House, we're able to give credit where credit is due. Thank you very much, Madam President. Now, Madam President, having said that, which I'm so pleased about, that we're able to give the United Progressive Party its flowers, I want to move on to the financial administration, accountability, transparency that was referenced by Senator Parker in her contribution. And I think Senator O'Donoghue also would have mentioned that they are very transparent at the airport. Now, Senator Parker would have mentioned the Finance Administration Act as it relates to the regulations that ought to administer special funds. Noting, when I mention special funds, I'll tell you what part of the bill I'm referring to, Madam President. Clause 3, entitled Amendment of Section 10, Environmental Charge. I'm going to jump to 3A2, Madam President. It says, the authority, that's the Airport Authority, shall pay to the Climate Resilience and Development Fund the amount of 12.5% of the total revenue collected for the Airport Administration Charge on the items A to I of the first schedule. Now, the critical words here for what I'm going to focus on, Madam President, is the Climate Resilience and Development Fund. Now, as mentioned before by Senator Parker, we have what are called special funds here in Antigua and Barbuda. Now, the Climate Resilience and Development Fund is such special fund. And all special funds in Antigua and Barbuda, Madam President, are governed by the Finance Administration Act of 2006. Now, I'm going to jump straight to Section 43 of the Finance Administration Act of 2006, Madam President, as it relates to financial accountability, transparency, fiscal responsibility, as those terms have been battered about here for the whole morning. Section 43 of the Finance Administration Act, subsection 7, it reads as follows. Within a period of 2 months after the end of the financial year, the public officer administering a special fund shall prepare, sign, and submit to the Accountant General statements of the special fund at the end of the financial year. Emphasis, every financial year. Subsection 8 continues. The statements required on the subsection 7 shall include A statement of assets and liabilities of the special fund, B, a detailed statement of receipts by and payments from the special fund, and C, a statement of investments of and any interest or dividends credited to the special fund. Now, Madam President, the law is clear. There ought to be statements prepared by the public officer who administers, for example, in this instance, the Climate Resilience and Development Fund. So their statements prepared, they are submitted to the Director of Audit for audit to be conducted, Madam President. And after that is done, well, not after that is done, when those statements are submitted to the Director of Audit, the law even specifies what those statements are to contain. Now, we speak about the Director of Audit. The Director of Audit submits reports, annual reports, Madam President, that have been tabled before this Honourable House. Don't worry, you say looking confused, but don't worry. The Climate Resilience and Development Fund is in the bone. So the Director of Audit submits reports, Madam President, annual reports. I take up the most recent report from the Director of Audit. This is from 2021. And it reads as follows. special funds, and he lists the special funds from which he received accounts from, in keeping with the Finance Administration Act, Section 43, subsections 7 and 8. I hope the people of Antigua and Barbuda are following. The director lists, and they are as follows. That is page 20 of his most recent report. Okay, it's quite a few. So let me just put it like this. I don't want to take time mentioning all of them. But the Climate Resilience and Development Fund is not mentioned. The most recent one from 2021, Madam President. Yes, his most recent report. The Climate Resilience and Development Fund is not mentioned in his report, and neither is it mentioned in the last 4 reports, which I just happen to have in my bag that I went through, so I can't speak for anything before that. Or in the budget. But what I can say for certainty, Madam President, for the last 4 reports from the Director of Audit, the Climate Resilience and Development Fund has been operating outside of the law. So when we speak about financial responsibility, and we see what the law requires for accounts to be submitted and what the accounts should contain, and that is not done, the Climate Resilience and Development Fund is not adhering to the law. So yes, we want to pat ourselves on the back as a government and say we are fiscally responsible, or we are, there's nothing that people can say about transparency and accountability, and we have the most integrity. But when you examine the facts, Madam President, and I notice it's very quiet, there are no points of orders, points of information to raise, because the law speaks for itself. I don't have to interpret or try to spin anything. It is clear, and that has not been followed. So when you're presented with the facts, when you're presented with the information, members on the government bench, I notice that you're quiet. Senator O'Neill, who normally banters with me, Senator Brown, is not there anymore. Madam President, I'm making my contribution, So the point I'm saying here, Madam President, this fund, this Climate Resilience and Development Fund, that the airport administration charge is being increased to fund, Madam President, is not following the law as it relates to financial procedure and accountability. And Madam President, in case the members of the public are hearing what is being said, any chairman of the Public Accounts Committee was not mentioned in the Finance Administration Act, Madam President. It was the public administrator of the special fund mentioned in this bill who is responsible for submitting the reports. And your mic, Madam President. Yes, thank you very much, Madam President, for that intervention. I was just saying
the intervention was for my benefit because you're egging them on. The intervention was for my benefit because you're egging them on. You were doing well and then you start to roll them up. So don't think that I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help me. So continue.
No problem. I like when they rile up, Madam President.
I know that, and that's the problem.
Make things fun for me sometimes.
Yeah, I know. I know that.
Yes, I was just saying, Madam President, that the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee has been spewed by the members on the other side. Is not mentioned in the law. He has no legal responsibility here to ensure that the Climate Resilience and Development Fund adheres to the Finance Administration Act, Section 43, subsections 7 and 8. So when Senator Parker mentions that there needs to be more transparency and proper fiscal, financial accounting before we come to this honorable House and raise charges, raise taxes, introduce new charges, introduce new taxes on the people of Antigua and Barbuda, especially when administrations would have pledged when they were looking for votes that we will not increase taxes or not introduce new taxes, we have a special responsibility to ensure that the law is followed, the proper transparency and accountability is there before we come into this honorable House and increase charges on the backs of the people. And with what is it called? The Price and Consumer Index. Somebody can correct me if I think that is something it's called. Or the talking about the price of goods would have come out recently, that report. And consumer price of goods, right. Whatever that report is entitled, Madam President, I hope you're following me. But that
Madam President, I rise on a point of order.
What is your point of order,
Madam
Senator?
President, I'm really trying to follow young Senator Wenner, and I am not sure what he's speaking about. I know he is all over the place about the Director of Auditor. I'm just trying to reference in what part of this legislation that is before us, the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill, with the 5 simple clauses that we have. I'm really trying to follow him, and he's not referencing this bill at all. So if he could indicate or help to guide us, I think I'm just not following. And I think we need the bill that is before us, Madam President, is the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill, and everything that he's speaking about, Madam President, has absolutely nothing to do with this bill. And you know the standing orders is clear. You debate and present what is before this Honorable House, Madam President.
Okay, so my understanding of the issue raised by Senator Wenner, which is elaborated on for the 20 minutes that he's been speaking on, is in relation to Clause 3 of the bill, 3A2, and he's saying the basis of his objection to the bill, non-supporting of the bill, is that he's not satisfied that the Climate Resilience and Development Fund has been administered properly. And so he has some concerns, and he's elaborating on why he's concerned by setting out the legal framework attaching and concerning that fund. And he's saying that there are some deficiencies there, and he would like them addressed before he can support the bill. Can I get a job with Hansard? That is my understanding. He was about to go on to something else, which was a little concerning for me, but you interrupted him in the time, so I just want to hear where he's going there, because his time is fast approaching, and I just want to hear where he's going with that. So, Senator Wenner, I want to continue with your presentation.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I appreciate that. And I will say that you definitely would have
you're right. No,
good position
just continue, Jack. Oh, my gosh.
Because you're very able
go ahead,
to
go
summarize
ahead.
what I said.
Yeah, you
so,
said that no,
yes,
but before
Madam
you didn't say
President.
that. So let's just stick to what I just said.
No problem at all,
Move
Madam
forward.
President. For the benefit of Senator Gavaya, as was mentioned, Clause 3.
No. I've ruled on it. I've explained. I want you to continue the point that you started before Senator Gavaya's intervention. Don't go back to what I ruled on, please.
Okay, no problem.
Continue with your presentation.
No problem. No, thank you very much, Madam President. So I was just saying that, in conclusion, when we're looking to increase taxes, introduce charges, increase existing charges, as in this case here, we're talking about the Airport Administration Charge, and it says the authority shall pay to the Climate Resilience and Development Fund the amount of 12.5%. So if you're going to do those things, increase what people have to take out of their pockets and give to the government, you have to be properly transparent and accountable as a government. And as I would have laid out from the Finance Administration Act of 2006, Section 43, subsection 7 and 8, the government has failed to do the proper financial accounting as reflected within the Director of Audit reports from the years 2021 going back. And the government has, in my opinion, Madam President, no footing to stand on to increase these charges on the backs of the people when they themselves are in violation of the laws of the land. If it pleases you, Madam President.
Look, you can ask the member for Barbuda, look in there, here in the Public Accounts Committee too. Look right here. Explain. Ask the Public Accounts Committee.
Senator Newton, when your colleagues have quieted down, you can take the floor.
Go ahead.
Madam President, let me first say good afternoon to you, to the members here on my side, and to the members on the opposition side. You know, it is customary for me to first give acknowledgments to the Almighty God, through whom we do all things. Madam President, I want to highlight a few things here this afternoon. A few things that were mentioned earlier. But I want to first state that the terms misinformation and disinformation are far more dangerous than any war that we see being fought now, any nuclear weapon that we've heard of. Misinformation and disinformation. You see, they can laugh, but when you get into the minds of people, and you get into the minds of the 8+ billion people in this world, you know how dangerous that is? You know the kind of damage you can do when you infiltrate the minds of people?
Madam President, to point of
And I'm
order.
going to...
You're rising on a point of order, I assume?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, what is your point of order?
My point of order is imputing improper motive, and the good senator will have to point out what the misinformation was.
Imputing improper motives
To
on
the
whom?
persons who have spoken so far today. That's what he says.
Is that what he said? I didn't get that. I thought he was just making a general
That's what I got.
introductory
He alluded to the
statement
fact that what has happened here this morning is dangerous more than war because of misinformation and disinformation. I have sat here, my good senator over there, I'm raising on a point of order. Be quiet. Mr. Donahue said about dishonesty several times, and I allowed it. That is imputing improper motive to a member of this House. Stop it. Or you are going to have to point out what is the misinformation and the disinformation, specifically, because we both can do what you've done today. I can do it too.
Madam President, like you, I don't enjoy pepper. I am not a spicy person. I don't eat spicy food. So like you, we both share that. Pardon? Oh,
Madam
she's
President,
ruled.
you
Okay.
haven't ruled. He needs to withdraw it.
So I'm at a loss. I was just waiting to hear what Senator Newton was about to say, and then I heard a point of order. And I don't know if I had a concluding statement in my mind as to what Senator Newton said for the morning, other than good afternoon and start out with God, and then he started his sentence. At least in my estimation, that's what I was hearing. And he's saying that you have to be cautious about certain things. And then I hear point of order. I didn't even think the man got to finish. I'm sorry, I can't rule on something that I didn't hear. I would like him to conclude his statement, and then I can say, well, no, you're wrong. You can't impute improper motives. But I heard a statement, this grand statement about misinformation is more impactful than nuclear war it was, or something to that effect. Can we allow Senator Hughes? Let me hear him, please. And if it was that he was minded to go in that direction, please don't. Right? Because you're not supposed to anticipate. You don't anticipate, so please.
Madam President.
I am speaking and I'm spoken, and I don't want to hear nothing else. There's a point of order, and that's it. Senator Newton, speak, please. Thank you.
I did not anticipate. I heard him clearly.
Thank you, Madam President. So, Madam President, I will continue my presentation on the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill 2026. Now, Madam President, right in this very house this morning, Senator Parker, we all heard it, said the government has created a slush fund. She said it. We can go back to Hansard. Okay? Be responsible and be careful with what you say. You said it right here this morning. So I quickly looked up the definition of a slush fund. A slush fund, according to the definition that I received
from
the internet source, Madam President. Google, we all use it, the Google engine, right? And it says a slush fund is an unregulated or secret pool of money set aside for illicit, unrecorded purposes. operative term. Illicit, unrecorded purposes. Okay? And that is what triggers me to say what I mentioned previously. Right? Getting into the minds of people. And you can't leave these kind of things uncontroverted. Because when you get into... Look, history has shown us. And Madam President, if you'll allow me, just for the purpose of reference. Some years ago, in Guyana, we heard about a story. Well, it can't be a story because it's factual. Where hundreds of people died. Yes, because one individual got into the minds of these people. Right? One individual got into the minds of people and caused them to do something we know, right? Where they drank the poison, and we know of the rest of the story. That's a fact. Right? I can refer to other instances, but I'll leave it there in the interest of time. Senator Parker referred to this as a slush fund. And I just gave the definition of a slush fund. I'll move on, Madam President. She also said that this will impact Antiguans and Barbudans. Now, number 5 of the bill, it clearly refers to number 5A. Right? In the clause, yes? Thank you, Senator O'Neill.
Brown. You have O'Neill and Brown.
Oh, Brown. Okay. Thank you, Senator O'Neill Brown. International passengers is who this will affect. Okay? Departing and arriving. International passengers. I want the definition, well, not the definition, sorry, greater clarity from Senator Parker when she said that this will affect local Antiguans and Barbudans. How? Precisely. And that is what they live on.
Madam President, a point of elucidation.
Yeah, well, I'm not yielding.
You just asked me to explain.
So I'm explaining.
You just asked me to explain.
Okay, well, let me explain for you.
You can't explain for me.
Because you said a lot of things this morning.
You cannot explain for me. It is
I am not
impossible.
yielding. She said this morning, oh, I don't have this, I don't know. But she's saying it.
Madam President, you have to say that.
Sorry, Madam President. I apologize. Madam President, I am not yielding. May I continue, Madam President?
When you say elucidate,
No, but she's speaking.
what I'm saying to you, when you say point of elucidate, you say Madam President, not you. Make a set point out, you should point out. Right. And in order to say, she said all the money disappears into the eternity.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President. Now, when we refer to international passengers, I think this is quite clear. Very, very clear. It does not mean if I travel to London and I'm returning to Antigua, yes, it is an international flight, but it does not affect me. International passengers refer to individuals who do not carry a CARICOM passport. Now we know all the passengers, we know all the persons across the Caribbean.
Point of order.
Well, what is your point of order, Senator?
The point of order is the good senator is misleading. The same point of order they raised against me. Because this section of the Act, which is not even in the Principal Act, dear Senator, that amendment happened in the Revenue Miscellaneous Provisions Act of 2023, and what this act here that before us is repealing is this section, and it speaks to international passengers. And an international passenger, Senator Newton, can be Antiguan. When you book a flight,
Sorry,
whether
hold on.
it's misinformation.
Hold on.
It's misleading and it's misrepresenting.
Hold on. Is international passenger defined in the legislation? Anybody check that in the Principal Act? It's amending an act. Hold on. Legal counsels. Because I don't want anybody to go away with the wrong impression here, because I see international passenger arriving into Antigua, international passenger departing out of Antigua. And so I am assuming that everybody understands what international passenger is, because it's either defined in the legislation or it's a term of art. It's in the industry. I don't want us to be bogged down on definition when it is defined. I say me talk for umpteen times, Senator Parker, and if I have to do it again, I'm going to name you. I am very serious. I'm very serious. Is there a definition, legal counsels?
No, Madam President.
There isn't a definition.
Sorry?
There isn't one.
For passenger, but not for international passenger.
For not for international.
But just for clarity, the legislation speaks to international passengers, domestic passengers, and transiting passengers.
Which legislation speaks to that?
This is the amendment. This is the airport administration.
And so it is within the context that there's a definition. There's a distinction between international passenger and a domestic passenger.
Passengers.
Can we move on, Senator
So
Newton?
it has to do with the flight itself. It has to do with the flight itself. We have regional travelers would be those within the OECS. Domestic is usually between Antigua and Barbuda, and the international passengers.
So there are three definitions.
Yeah, they're different.
So if there are three definitions, why are we haggling about
the definition
when it
is just they interpret the context within which it is used.
In the act, in the principal act of the airport authority. So the airport authority.
The airport administration charge. The same legislation that is being amended.
Charge, the legislation. The principal act. Yes? 2012 of 23 of 2012?
Yes, speaks to
three
international,
types
domestic,
of passengers.
and transiting.
International,
domestic, and transiting.
And transiting.
Yes.
What's the issue then? And I read the legislation then before I come here. You all need to read the legislation. The definitions are there. Why are we making an issue? The definition is there. If we have three distinct definitions, how can we then say it applies domestic travel or it applies to local persons? I don't want to do your work. I don't want to do your work. You're supposed to do your work. You're supposed to do your work, members of this honorable House. So if you say that it is going to affect the local persons and the definition does not allow that to happen, how do you expect somebody to not clarify that? How do you expect somebody else to stay here and say, yes, it will affect, and it will be a charge on the backs of Antiguans and Barbudans? You can't allow that to happen. There are three distinct definitions. Why are we trying to do otherwise than what we need to do? Senator Newton, continue. Somebody please tell Senator Parker that I am the final arbiter, and when I done talk, she doesn't need to speak again.
Thank you, Madam President. So yes. Well, I don't think there's any need to continue, with that, because we have gained the clarity that Senator Parker would need and Senator Wenner would have needed. The clarity is there. And we can't allow, like I said, Madam President, things to go uncontroverted. It is very dangerous and it can wreak havoc in any society, right? because the fear-mongering. And then we all know what will happen later today when they go, and first they're going to come out with the news items, and they're going to go on their radio programs and so on, and mislead Antiguans and Barbudans as to, oh, new tax, government put on new tax and so on the backs of the people. Can't allow that, Senator Wenner. Can't allow that. Right? You got to be with it. Fine. I understand you're young, maybe immature to this. I say it all the time, and I like you now. I like you a lot, Senator Wenner, honestly. Right? Think you're a good kid. But just do not allow yourself to get, drawn in to that sort of behavior. Right? Now, I want to move on, Madam President, as to how the monies will be utilized. And it speaks to the 50% here in Section 3. No, number 3 of amendment of Section 10. And B, it says 50% of the revenue collected under subsection 2 shall be allocated primarily to the enhancement of A, civil aviation, B, airport transportation, or air transportation, sorry, C, regional integration, and D, other related matters. And I want to just follow on what Senator O'Donoghue presented earlier about the airport rehabilitation. Senator O'Donoghue mentioned the rehabilitation of our runway that is presently happening, the construction of the new expanded runway 25. She also spoke about the installation of the new runway end lights, runway edge lighting, and the turnpad edge lighting. And all this is us upscaling to accommodate the new aircraft. We see what's happening. They're becoming bigger, better, to transport more people, more passengers. The A380 at present, we're not able to accommodate the A380. That's the biggest aircraft in the world. And that is why we're upgrading, we're expanding. And these things cost. There's a cost associated to all this, and that is why we are now doing all of this. So, Senator, when you ask the question, right through you, Madam President, where is this money going? What is the purpose? Right? And I'm referring to a media release here from the ABAA, Antigua and Barbuda Airport Authority. It's right here. Okay?
It's right here in your hand now,
yes.
Going into the hand, sir.
And
what is the date of the press release? When was it published? Is this the same one that was referred to previously?
Yes, Madam President, 19 February 2026.
Thank you very much. Remember, we're recording, and for posterity, we need to know what it is was said, and for the benefit of persons who are listening as well as the other members in the House. Please.
Madam President, thank you for your guidance. But the document is clear as to what the monies are being used for. Right? Madam President, upgrading is something that is continuous. Remedial work. These things are continuous. You always have to upgrade. You can't ever stay stagnant. As life evolves, so do people. So does the infrastructure around you. And this is what's happening here. So I don't intend to be too long on this, but I think I have a responsibility to let the people of this country know, and even those further afield who may be listening to this today, that we are not a society of chaos and confusion like what they try to present and try to give the impression that we do not do things in an orderly manner. That is not true. Everything is clearly outlined. So, Madam President, I am not going to go any further. I just wanted to make the record clear that we, as a responsible people and as a responsible government, will not sit down idly and allow members of the opposition to mislead the good people of Antigua and Barbuda. Madam President, if it pleases you.
Senator Hughes and then Senator
I will
O'Neill.
yield to the good senator if he wishes to speak. I don't know his urgency.
Senator O'Neill Senator Hughes is yielding to you, allowing you to go first. Do you take the opportunity?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, for acknowledging. Let me first start by saying good afternoon to this honorable House, to those within the chambers, to those within the audience this morning as well, and those who may be watching through our live broadcast. Madam President, we're here to debate a very important piece of legislation here this morning. Well, through the morning session into the evening session, the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill of 2026. Madam President, when you look at the context of this bill, it's really a support mechanism towards the revenue as we seek to ensure that we advance the airport capabilities to meet some of the international standards and requirements that are set up against us, Madam President. Madam President, I want to specifically focus on the investment within the aviation sector specifically. And when you look at, Madam President, some of the projects that the government has embarked on over the past 6 months, and I'd like to state here from my source from Antigua Newsroom, of some articles that they would have wrote. I have here from February 19, 2026, Phase 1 of 55 million runway rehabilitation completed at VC Bird International Airport. I have here a speech
Senator,
quoted.
I'm not sure where you're reading from. I didn't get that. I was leaning in to hear, but I didn't hear. What are you reading from, sir?
Yes, Madam President. So I'm currently quoting a news source from Antigua Newsroom of some sources.
Antigua Newsroom of what day?
So the first one, Madam President, would have been on February 19, 2026. And that article basically speaks to Phase 1 of the 55 million runway rehabilitation completed at the VC Bird International Airport. Also, Madam President, on December 11, 2025, Minister Fernandez would have reported the major runway and digital upgrades advancing at VC Bird International Airport. And Madam President, the reason why I stated this specifically, because it's a norm of culture towards the nation to always invest in your country. And many times, Madam President, when you think about investments, individuals think about the physical things. But specifically the airport, Madam President, we have made investments digitally as well. So, as you know, when you travel through the Caribbean, there's this thing that whenever you reach to the airport, or arrive to the airport, that is, there's a form that you have to fill out. We have made a bold step, Madam President, in creating a digital platform, Arrive Antigua, where we are now able, Madam President, to fill out these application online ahead of the immigration line. Madam President, these projects simply are not cheap. Let me say it again. The other investments, Madam President, that we can think about that we have made in our biometric system, updating it, ensuring, Madam President, that when you get to the airport and you put your fingerprint in the system, that we can use that for several different purposes, Madam President. So even though that we have made significant investment within our runway, there's other aspects, Madam President, that we simply would have made that is important to the crown of Antigua and Barbuda. Madam President, one of my takeaways from this bill that I think the opposition missed the shot speaking about it is that even though that we're increasing this charge on international travelers, what this is doing, Madam President, is allowing us at periodic times to reduce regional travel. And if you look, Madam President, within this bill, there's actually a section that speaks to the fact that ministers will be able to make changes based on the economic situation. And this is a practice, Madam President, that is happening throughout the region. You know, I was actually watching Parliament in Barbados, and the Finance Minister, Mr. Ryan Stroud, he would have reduced the regional travel fee from 35 US to 20 US. So, Madam President, I'm just stating here that even though we're increasing the 10 U.S. international travelers, this is also an opportunity for us, Madam President, at periodic times to reduce the regional fees that has been barren throughout us. You know, when you look at, for instance, specific areas such as sports, culture, and carnival, specifically now, this critical important time, Madam President, when this comes into operation, Madam President, down the line, we're now able to reduce the regional fees to allow individuals, encourage individuals to travel freely, regionally, throughout the different various carnivals. And I remember, Madam President, when I was in the discipline of sports, cricket that is, that one of the things that we stressed about was the fact that we weren't able to travel freely throughout the Caribbean to compete regionally with our counterparts because of the regional costs that was applied against us, Madam President. So I'm stating here that even though there's an increase of $10 US for international travelers, it's an opportunity for us, Madam President, that periodically, throughout these periods, that we can reduce these regional flights, Madam President. So it's a two-phase asset here, you know, it's to balance it out. Madam President, when you also look at the contribution that this would make towards ECHO, one of the things that stood out to me was of the importance, and I stress the importance of how costly some of these infrastructures are within the Eastern Caribbean civil aviation. And just to show you an example, the instrument landing system, Madam President, that is not simply a cheap piece of equipment. That is merely about between $1 to $3 million US. When you look, Madam President, at even the airport security surveillance system, these are not cheap mechanisms, Madam President, that just comes to your doorsteps. So we are making, Madam President, the necessary funding mechanism available for when we are required, Madam President, to make these continued investments. We have Shogun coming up, Madam President, and as you're seeing throughout the years, we have had an increase in the amount of visitors visiting Antigua and Barbuda. And I can tell you this, I actually spoke to 2 tourists on Saturday, and they told me straight up, we have one of the most beautiful airports in the Caribbean. And I know the UPP would take credit of that. I know the UPP would take credit of that. But let me tell you, you can't just build a building there and leave it just like that. We have painted it, we've decorated it, we planted flowers, and we've made it beautiful. Madam President, what I also want to state here is some numbers that my friend on the other side would have tried to ridicule us by stating that this is an expense on the people of Antigua and Barbuda. Well, let me tell you, in Barbados, the international fee for visitors either leaving Barbados or visiting Barbados, it's $70 US. In St. Vincent, $40 US. In Trinidad, $50 US. In Aruba, $53 US. In Jamaica, $35 US, Madam President. So when you look at, Madam President, this increase from $40 to $50, we are not killing individuals. It's around the same price bracket, Madam President. So to come in here, Madam President, and try to mislead the Honorable House as though this is some sort of expensive venture that we're trying to levy on the people of Antigua and Barbuda. I mean, it's honestly disgraceful, Madam President. And the last thing that I'd like to speak on when they spoke about wastage is that we would have merely spent $55 million to renovate our runway. But I remember a period in time when I was young that they would have spent $94 million. And when you look at, Madam President, in this period of time, 2026, with the global supply chains being disrupted and getting value for money, you can't tell me, Madam President, that $55 million is not even a steep turn than $94 million. So, Madam President, I fully support this bill. I crave your indulgence. Thank you.
Senator Hughes.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And Madam President, before I go into my presentation, permit me to offer condolence to the government and people of Barbados and the wider cricketing world on the passing of a cricketing icon, Sir Garfield Gary Sobers. Madam President, he's one of those ambassadors who carried the West Indies cricket and West Indies throughout the world, and one of the principal actors who placed cricket on the map, or West Indies cricket on the map. And on behalf of us on this side and the Honorable Jamal Pringle and the leadership of the United Progressive Party, we offer our condolence to the wider cricketing body, to the government and people of Barbados, and to the Barbados Cricket Association. Thank you, Madam President, for allowing me that opportunity. Now, Madam President, I sat and I listened to the debate from both angles. But what is lacking for me, Madam President, is the fact that members of the government must understand that when you come to present an amendment to a legislation, you must also direct and guide the public as to its effect on the Parent Act and how it differs, how the amendment affects the ordinary man and woman out there. Now, Madam President, the Parent Act number 3 of 2012. This is what we're amending. I sat, I listened to the leader of government business, I listened to all the senators on the other side, refer only to the amendment, and continuously speak to revenue and the airport and all the changes at the airport, but they have not referred to the Parent Act, the necessary changes and what is affected. So I will deal with that matter. Madam President, we have a Parent Act that we are amending. And the Parent Act, Madam President, speaks to, number 4 of the Parent Act, speak to the question of persons who are exempt. I'm coming around, Madam President.
No. Let me just be clear. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. Because I know the fundamental rule is this: if you're dealing with bill, it is the bill that is before you. So if you're referring to the Parent Act, then it must be Senator Cavallo. Decorum. Remember, we can still hear you. If you're referring to the Parent Act, then it must be insofar as the amendments are concerned. I hear you, because you say everybody forget about that, and then you go to section 4 of the Principal Act. And I'm looking here, and I don't see section 4 reference in the bill before us. So I'm hoping that when you come, you are going to be dealing with how the bill before us affects section 4. Okay.
Now, Madam President, thank you very much. And I refer to section 4 because it allows for certain members, certain persons in society to be exempted from paying the tax. Right? Now, I wanted to move on, Madam President. I didn't want to go too deep into section 4. I wanted to move on, Madam President, by referring also, not just to the Parent Act, but to I want to first deal with the whole question of number 4, section 13 of the amendment. Now, Madam President, if we were to look at the Parent Act with section 13, the Parent Act says that on the 13th, and you're following, Madam President? The minister may by regulations amend the schedule to this act. Section 13 allows for that upon the approval of cabinet. The amendment allows for that. But what is very concerning to me, Madam President, what is very concerning to me, which I would like to have an explanation from the leader of government business, is that the Parent Act also places an obligation on the minister by negative resolution of the House to place regulations here, those regulations here. And that, Madam President, was repealed in its entirety. Why is the question? Why is it that the regulations now, where parliamentary oversight was in place in the Parent Act, that you're now removing the parliamentary oversight in this amendment and replacing it only with this language, and I quote, the minister may amend the schedule of this act by order upon approval by cabinet.
I'm not sure I follow.
Madam President, section
The Airport
13.
Administration Charge Act 2012, number
Yes.
3 of 2012, is what you're referring to.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
been amended to remove the
It
regulations.
says remove, it says section 13 of the Principal Act is amended by repealing section 13 in its entirety and replacing it as follows. Section 13 of the Principal Act has two areas. One, the minister may by regulation amend the schedule to this act. And two, the regulations made under section 1, which is the minister's regulation, are subject to negative resolution of the House of Representatives. So when those regulations are amended or changed, they are brought to Parliament. That's the Parent Act. Section 13, Amendment of Schedules in the Parent Act, has two reasons or two areas where parliamentary oversight, this regulation, when they're amended, they're tabled here, like what Senator Govai did this morning. She brought them to the House. The amendment that we're debating today removes that oversight and parliamentary laying on the table the regulations. I don't know if if I'm wrong. My Lord.
Senator Hughes, continue the presentation.
Yes, thanks,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
The drafters will then revisit and see if it was an omission, act of omission that should be returned to the act. Right? But this came from the House. So parliamentary oversight was removed from the bill. So I would like for the leader of government business, who placed this bill on the table, to address that issue that is most vexing to the legislation. Now, Madam President, Section 5 of the amendment spoke to an increase of 25% on the charge, which moves it from $40 US on the charges, international passengers arriving international passengers departing, and in case of transiting passengers into Antigua. Madam President, simply put, you know, we come and we behave as if Antiguans never had to pay it or pay any charge. We behave like that, you know. Oh, the Antiguans will never charge anything. They're exempt from charging anything, Madam President. Antiguans are never charged, you know, never charged. But when we go, Madam President, when we go to the Revenue Miscellaneous Act of 2023, number 13, which amended the schedule, it repealed then what was in the Parent Act. And Madam President, you know, I am happy I sat and I listened to you, and I was saying, wow, Madam President is really doing what I wanted to do, and she's stealing my thunder. Because it appears that the individuals who are presenting on behalf of government only take one document and they read and they don't follow, they don't research, and they come and they only speak to what's on the paper, but are not drawing to the public's attention the changes in the legislation. They're not doing that. Now, Madam President, the bill I referred to, the miscellaneous, you know, and Madam Leader of Government Business, you'll have a chance to wrap things up and correct me. I'm not grandstanding. What grandstanding? I'm speaking to the leader. Who number is serpent and the Honorable Trevor Walker up there? That grandstanding to the thing. I'm speaking to the public and to the President. Madam President, I'm speaking to the public and to you. Because, yes, you're correct. You're correct. You're correct. I will not allow Senator Shaul to distract me from my presentation, because when you're firing punches, Madam President, who gets it, take it. 1904. Okay. That's before I was born. Madam President, I was referring to the Revenue Miscellaneous Act, which laid out the schedule, amended. And I'm going to just highlight, Madam President, we're amending A, B, and C of that schedule.
Correct.
Only A, B, and C we're amending, Madam President. But permit me to go through the rest of the schedule in the Revenue Miscellaneous Act. Just a minute, for the public to understand and to share with the public what the rest of the schedule say, so that persons can understand that although that is just $10 on the $40, it's just $10 on the $40, you know. So a family of 5 from the United States traveling to Antigua on a vacation now have to pay $50 more to their vacation as of the 1st of September 2026. A family of 5 who already budgeted their vacation, who already paid for their ticket, who already organized themselves, now have to find $50. And that is nothing to you because you don't care. That is nothing. That is nothing. I like that. Nothing to you. Nothing to you. $50 more is nothing to you. It's just $10 more. It's just $10 more. Nothing to you. Right? Because it doesn't affect you. You have a diplomatic passport, you don't pay no tax. Doesn't affect you.
You're talking to me, Senator?
Not you, Madam President. Not you, Madam President. It's not you I'm talking. It's the noise in the house. The noise. Yes. Right? Now, Madam President, Madam President.
Okay, all right, calm down. Let's settle down
Yes,
now, please.
excitement.
Thank you very much.
We're going to lunch soon. We're going to lunch soon. I have to open your appetite. Madam President, I was asking for your permission to just go through.
I wasn't quite sure why you're going through the
I wanted to
portion
show-
that's not amended.
No, I wanted to show the public, Madam President. I wanted to show the public, for those who are, and educate the public, Madam President, for educational reason. For information and educational reason, not to debate or to...
Yeah, what me I say, Jack? Oh, geez, Louise.
Yes, Madam President.
If you have showing that there has been a change, which you've just done, A, B, and C. That's it. That's it. That's it. That is what is before us.
Yes, Madam.
If you are about to suggest that maybe there should be other changes, maybe. But that is what's before us, sir. There's no other amendment.
No,
I don't understand why we keep doing this.
Madam President.
Madam Clerk, we really need to impress on ourselves to really put our feet to the wheel to get the training sessions in place soonest, because I don't want us, we're not debating the principal act. The amendment, I didn't ask, thank you. It is the amendments to the principal act and the consequences of the amendment to the principal act. I cannot allow you to go into the rest of the schedule, which is unchanged. If you have a problem, maybe you can say you want to change them, but to go in them in detail and add to your time does not benefit us. The amendment before us is the first schedule. I thought you were going in a different direction, but it's okay. A, B, C. I don't know how we can get into what is not before us. I'm saying that for the last time for the day. Hopefully, it translates to the other amendment bills that we have before us, the two amendment bills. Please, Senator Hughes, let's stick to the amendments before us.
Yeah, Madam President, I sat and I listened to your wise counsel, and I think that part of our job as parliamentarians is to also educate the public, because not everybody in the public is familiar with what is happening. And why I said that, Madam President, is because we have two different charges in the legislation, right? For international passengers, Madam President, in the amendment. We're now amending international passengers out of Antigua to $50. But in the amendment that was passed in 2023, we're charging international passengers departing out of Barbuda $100 US. That is the comparison I'm trying to say, Madam President.
Okay, go ahead.
Madam President, I'm just doing a comparison that we are a unitary state. We're a unitary state. And if a passenger is going to Barbuda, international passenger is going to Barbuda on a vacation, they charge $100 US departing Barbuda and $50 US for regional passengers into Barbuda. You all don't read. You have to go back to the amendment and do your research. I'm speaking to the amendment in the Revenue Miscellaneous Act.
Right.
So what, I'm going to move from that now, Madam President. But it is the schedule that I'm speaking to. The very schedule that is being amended. And you've only amended 3 areas. Right? So I wanted to show you a comparison that in the very act and the very section, Madam President, you are dealing with international passengers in 2 separate ways, and I leave it there for the public to consider. I leave it there. Read what? But I read it, I tell you the amendment. Why you want me to go there when I just
Why are you responding to the? Why are you responding?
You all go read the act.
Senator Hughes.
Yes, ma'am. You know
stop
sometimes
responding
to
the
more.
members who do not have voice at this stage. Please.
Look, I agree with you, Madam President. Let me tell you something.
You say that no, but then you can go back and, and listen to them.
Again. Not today. Not on this bill. Maybe another bill. Because I don't want to be distracted, Madam President. I did my homework. Circulate what? Lord have mercy. Sorry, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. No, Madam President, I've heard every member in this honorable House on the government side speak to the question of the revenue is going to be this, the revenue is going to be that. I don't see anywhere, and maybe the leader of government business could assist me as a minority leader as to where in this bill speaks to the revenues being allocated to pay a $50 million loan for the airport resurfacing. But that is what everybody's been talking about. We did an upgrade, and we need...
Madam President, I rise on the point of order.
Don't rise on the point of order. I was about to, but y'all not allowing me to do my work. Y'all putting me to do work that I don't need to do today. But Senator Hughes, I don't remember hearing anyone say that they were going to use that to service the loan. Could you refresh my mind as to which member would have said that?
Madam President, Senator, and I'm sorry she's not here, Senator O'Donoghue raised the issue of the amount of monies, and she went as far as to referring to the press release that was shared with us. And Senator Newton referred to the same press release. And in that press release, the government was referring to a $50 million upgrade of the airport. And they referred to the bill by saying...
I don't see any...
Madam President, I rise on the point of order.
Y'all give me a little time.
As the President is speaking with me, we're having a nice conversation.
I'm trying to... Oh, man. I see in the press release a US $50 million upgrade. I didn't see mention of the loan. And I do not recall the senator speaking to... Senator Brown and Senator Shaw, it seems like two persons seated between the two of you has not made an impact on your voice contribution when you're not supposed to be speaking. Senator Hughes, I don't see any reference there in their loan. I've seen it. Represents a significant milestone in the $50 million US upgrade. And I went through, did a scan, I don't see it, and I do not recall Madam Senator saying about the loan. I know she spoke about the money is being applied to a number of different areas, including this $50 million upgrade. So, can we use the words that we use, please, as you wrap up your presentation?
Yes, ma'am. I will yield to what you have on record, but my ears might have heard different, Madam President, and if your ears were hearing different, then I accept what your ears would have heard as the comments that you would have had on record. The last thing I want to raise on this matter, Madam President, because there's a troubling area for me on the amendment number 3.
Amendment number 3 or
yes,
clause 3?
Clause 3, Amendment 10, Section 10, amendment to Section 10, sorry. Environmental charge. Madam President, we have to be very careful when we have very broad language in legislations. And D is the devil in this detail for me. D is the devil, where it says other related matters. What if I may ask the leader of government business to define for me, when you're dealing with money, what do you consider to be other related matters? How you going to use that for natural disaster? Lord of mercy. Madam President, look, they get vexed, you know, because I'm supposed to be speaking to you and I'm still responding to them.
So you're getting vexed with yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Because you specifically
You
asked
should be-
the
should be
leader
dealing with you,
to
yes.
clarify.
I'm getting upset with
And I'm
myself.
assuming that the leader will clarify in her wrap-up.
Exactly.
So why are you listening to them after
I
you
don't know
promised
why,
me
Madam
faithfully
President.
that you're not listening to them again? Tell me.
Look, let me tell you, Madam President. Well, sometimes, you know, Spanish radio stations, you just can't get rid of them. They just
That is not
so you hear things all the time.
That's not the right response, but Senator, please
I'm speaking
conclude
to
your
you.
presentation. You were speaking
Madam
about
President, the question here that I would like to be clarified by the leader of government business is because it says under the amendment to Section 10 that 50% of the collected revenues shall be allocated primarily to the enhancement, one, of civil aviation. So that is one specific reason. Air transportation, air transport. I don't know what aspect of air transport. So I need to be to know that air transport is a wide thing. Do we then pay for empty seats? Is it going to be allocated for paying for empty seats on aircrafts like the old days? What is, Madam President, regional integration? It's a wide language. What aspect of regional integration? And then I come back to my position of other related matters. You see, revenues are for specific purpose. And these are very broad areas to allocate the revenues to. And that is why it points back again to the whole question of the regulations having to come here to Parliament so Parliament can know what the regulations will speak to at the appropriate time. Right? Now, Madam President, the last part I wish for the Honorable Leader of Government Business to address when she wraps up in pointing to this legislation is on the amendment to Section 10, number 4. Number 4, Madam President, where it says an amount of $2.50. Clause, yes, amendment to Section 10, yeah. Clause 3, amendment to Section 10, number 4 under that. I just dealt with 3, 2, and B. I'm now dealing with 4, which says $2.50 US per charge of the amount collected under 1A. You follow me? Yes. Right. Clause 3.4. Right. It says an amount of $2.50, Madam President, per charge of the amount collected under items 1A, right? Item 1A and 1B of the first schedule shall be allocated to the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation as Antigua and Barbuda's contribution to the regional institution. What my confusion in this matter is that you have the authority paying or collecting certain amount of monies, but $2.50 is going to ECHA. Is it the $2.50 from the additional $10 or just $2.50 from $50? Is it $2.50, Madam President? I want to understand. You have amended the bill now to $50 US. You have increased the amount by $10. So I want to know if the $2.50 is coming from the additional $10 or the $2.50 is from the $50. Look how wide it is near myself. Madam President, I just want to know, so why I'm asking the question, so is to identify whether or not it is $7.50 that goes on to the $40 or not. And because there's some percentages that are going to other things. The percentage is going to other things, so I just want to, look, these things, Madam President, when a presenter of a bill comes, they must be clear. Correct. I understand that the government might have given her notes in order to assist her with outlining the rudiments of the bill. But the bill must be explained in a way that the ordinary Antiguan can understand, and not placed in this way where just the people in Parliament must understand and expect and appreciate what is being done. We must speak so ordinary Antiguans understand how the bill or the amendments go, Madam President. Right? So, simple. It may sound stupid to them on the other side, but it would be constructive in her winding up to outline all of the concerns that I raise in the bill. Because, Madam President, these are legitimate concerns. Correct. Legitimate concerns. Absolutely. Whether or not the members on the other side believe that it's non-contentious and it's common sense. The ordinary man out there and woman must always appreciate and understand changes to their lives. It does. Changes to their lives. The ordinary man or woman is not just Antiguan, you know. The ordinary man or woman is a traveler that is coming to Antigua, Madam President, who is going to read in the international articles the changes to prices on airline tickets. It's the ordinary man or woman out there who listen because it's no longer just ABS surfacing just to Antigua. ABS have, what, over 50,000 followers that are following the broadcast, so they must understand what is happening. It is for the ordinary man or woman who's selling tours and tickets to Antigua to explain to the passenger the reason for the changes in these bills. Because sometimes we implement changes as government that creates confusion in the administration of those bills, of those changes. So you want people to understand when changes are coming, how to apply them. So we want the people to understand. So, Madam President, in closing, I want to say this. And I keep hearing on the UPP. Madam President, I will say this. Government is continuous. Every government benefits from another government. The Labour Party was in power up until 2004. The UPP didn't come in and remove everything. You make changes to benefit the modern, and you amend the bills to modernize the bills to meet the modern era. So why are we always, after being in office for over a decade, still referring to a party that you done, say, 15-0 or 15-1? Why does that bother you? It's like you're not happy. It's like you're not happy. Madam President, I will say that I wish this government well. I wish this government well because Antigua and Barbuda is for all of us to survive in. But what you must do is that you must listen to constructive criticism and not always play the political card, because what you do in power, you have to live with it out of power at one time. And don't ever think you're going to be in power for the rest of your lives. Madam President, with that said, I thank you for my moment, and do have a wonderful day, continuous day. And I hope that you are enjoying the debate. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
Yes, Senator Gavai, you may wrap up.
Madam President, what I do know is that some people may not be in power, but the people of this country will never return the United Progressive Party to government. Madam President, I listened attentively, especially to the members on the opposition, specifically Senator Parker, who spoke about deceptive, desperate, and dangerous. But let's remind the people what was deceptive: romantic rhythms. What was desperate was the personal income tax that was introduced.
Madam President, on a point of order.
Madam President, I'm
Madam
wrapping up.
President, on a point of order,
Madam
please.
President, I'm wrapping up. He had his time to speak, man. He had your time to speak. And he didn't speak about the bill. He didn't speak about the bill.
Senator Gavai, have a seat. What is your point of order?
Madam President, we are having a wonderful debate.
Is it?
And yes. And what is happening here, I thought that Senator Gavai, being the leader of government business, would have gotten up and wrap up the areas instead of going into a political rhetoric of things that have been totally. If we start to go down that road, the whole session today, Madam President, may bring you a lot of headache, because there are things that happen that we could always argue about. The question is, I've asked some serious questions in my debate and discourse, and I wish for her to focus on the bill, and address those pertinent issues within the bill, like you've asked me to do, Madam President, when I started my discourse. I wish for you to protect the bill.
I'm sorry.
So, I'm very prayerful that on this occasion I won't be in any memes with my hand up in my head like that, because that's where I'm, and this is only the first bill. And that's why I'm mindful of not doing today, so my hand's not going up there again. I would really appreciate if you would allow me to rule on the points of order or points of elucidation, whatever objection you might raise to speak on, and not carry on your own discourse, because it means that I'm not needed. And I think the people who are listening, even though they're enjoying the sessions, I'm sure, would really like the matter to get to the end. And Senator, you opened the door insofar as the governance is concerned and government being continuous and all of that in your presentation. And Sanzigavai is starting again. You're not allowing members to speak. If they finish their sentences and then I see that there's an issue and you make an objection, I can rule. But I don't know how Senator Gavai is going to link that with whatever she's saying, but you did open the door. Remember your presentation. That was the last piece of your presentation. So if Senator Gavai chooses to start her presentation where you ended, how can I stop her from doing that? Yeah, okay. I've heard y'all, and I heard y'all in the banter. So thank you for reminding us that we're focused on the bill before us and the issues raised. I know you're not the only one that would have raised issues in your presentation, that I'm sure other members would want to hear what Senator Gavai has to say insofar as the issues raised and the clarification required. I know Senator Gavai is not going to spend her full 30 minutes on what used to obtain, but deal with what is and where we're going forward to. So I'm going to allow Senator Gavai to continue to speak. Allow her to, the sentence not done yet. Continue to speak, and then we can see what happens there. Okay? Senator Gavai?
Thank you, Madam President. I won't be 30 minutes, but am I getting back my 4 minutes because that was not a point of order. But be as it may, Madam President, when Senator Parker started her presentation, she described the bill as 3 Ds. And she mentioned the bill being deceptive, desperate, and dangerous. But I want to remind the people of Antigua and Barbuda, because you see, as our minority leader says, when we come into this house, we have to reference things so that people can understand, even previous legislation, right? He mentioned that, Madam President, so I want to reference so that people could understand, because I appreciate that people need to understand. When we speak about deceptive, Madam President, I remember romantic rhythms. When we speak about desperate, and it's the 3 Ds as referenced by the opposition about this bill. When we speak about desperate, I remember the personal income tax. And when we speak about desperation again, I remember the Antigua and Barbuda sales president. And Madam President, I note the minority leader was asking a question about if the charges will come from the $40 or the $50. This is a new amendment. And so when this is passed, the $40 becomes null and void. The new cost is $50. It's an amendment to the legislation, Madam President. And Madam President, you know, I'm a bit bothered because when we speak about international, and I went on American Airlines website, right? As you know, I am quite a frequent traveler because I believe in living life, Madam President. And I checked the taxes. We as Antiguans and Barbudans, when we go to other countries, we have to pay these international taxes too. Sometimes you buy a ticket and a ticket is for these international charges, Madam President. Sometimes you buy a ticket, right, Madam President, and the ticket costs $300 US. right? That's the base price of the ticket. And when you check out, Madam President, you're almost at $700 US. And I know through, for example, non-profit organizations, and I know through the likes of JCI and Girl Guide, sometimes when they travel, they would write to the Minister of Finance for exemption of these taxes. So when you come in here and want the exemption of these charges and taxes, Madam President, so don't come and talk about poor people and groups, because there are ways where you can apply. If you're a church group and you're traveling, you write to the Minister of Finance and you ask, the Minister of Finance have time, because I've seen him make the time all the time. Or you can write
Senator Hughes,
to the
please.
Commissioner.
No.
You can write to the Commissioner of Inland Revenue, Mr. Ralph Warner.
Senator Guevara, sit for me a minute, please. Senator Hughes, no. 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 No. You're not going to disrupt this House. You are, because I'm not hearing, Senator. I'm having to balance competing noise with the presentation of the Leader of Government Business. And we're wrapping up. We've been on this bill for an excessive long period, and I would like to hear the wrap up so we can go into committee stage and try and bring some clarity there. So I would really appreciate if the noise can be, you can banter without being loud. And I know you have a very strong voice, but please be reminded that decorum is required in the House, and you have to respect the authority of the House and respect your colleagues as well in the House. And in doing so, you have to allow me to hear what is being said. Next thing, you'd stand up on a point of order and I couldn't hear. Then you say, that's what you hear, but you lean to me because that is what I hear. I want to hear. So please allow Senator Guevara the opportunity, the time that she's allowed to wrap up. Don't want to have to intervene again, please. Senator Guevara.
Thank you so much, Madam President. If we spend our time speaking
Senator
when we have the
Guevara,
opportunity on the legislation instead of referencing a previous bill in this House, then we won't need to rise on a point of order. But be as it may, Madam President, I will continue because it's my time so to do. Madam President, when we purchase tickets, and all of us can agree, sometimes you search a ticket on whether Kayak or whatever browser that you're utilizing, and you see the cost of a ticket, and that cost of a ticket is one specific price. And then when you go to checkout, Madam President, it's another cost. And we as Antiguans and Barbudans, when we travel to international countries, likewise we are subject to the charges. We are subject to the charges. And there are provisions, because you like to talk about other related matters and you don't understand what it means. But I'll get to that next. But there are provisions. If you're under the age of 13 as a minor, you don't pay taxes on your ticket. And if you're over 60, you don't. And if you're church groups and other groups, you can apply for respective exemptions. Right, Madam President? Madam President, Antigua, from $40 to $50. St. Lucia, major tourist destination, one of my favorite countries. Madam President, they pay $88. 88 US dollars. Antigua and Barbuda were still one of the lowest, Madam President. So when we want to speak about deceptive, desperate, and dangerous, lest we forget, Madam President, and Madam President, in the legislation, because I was really, a little taken aback by my minority leader there, because I expect so much better from him, having been in this House before, and just graduated, and congratulations, by the way, on your law degree. I anticipated a little more from you, but to whom much is given, much is expected, Madam President, because to suggest whether or not the $10 will come from the $40, after this legislation is passed, It's now $50, Madam President, right? It will become $50, Madam President, an amount, and it's specific, Madam President. Then you have the 12%, Madam President. If you go to Section 3, the authority shall pay to the Climate Resilient and Development Fund the amount of 12.5% of the total revenue collected for the airport administration charge. 12.5%, that is a fixed cost. 12.5% of what is collected. Madam President, I cannot believe we've spent, but it's an important piece of legislation that we would have been here, Madam President, and we have 4 more bills to go. That should not be contentious either. But, Madam President, this legislation is simple. It's a simple investment, Madam President, in the future of Antigua and Barbuda. And you know what is interesting? And I want to applaud the drafters, because in their explanatory memorandum, you know, it's clear. And the explanatory memorandum actually has 6 paragraphs, Madam President. And it indicates to you what the sole purpose of this legislation is. Doesn't speak about any taxes, Madam President. It speaks about an increase, Madam President, from US $40 to $50. This is an investment, Madam President, in the future of Antigua and Barbuda. A modern, safe, and resilient airport that supports our tourism, trade, and investment. And Madam President, I note that, and permit me to go to my phone, because I wanted to pull up the Tourism Guest Levy Act of 2021. Madam President, and that is where Section 8, and we can all find the Tourism Act levy online for the people of Antigua and Barbuda and for my colleagues in here, but I could print it after, Madam President, to suggest that the Climate Resilience Development Fund, we never heard of it, and we never seen it in any budget, and we never heard it in any cabinet notes. We're misleading the people of this country. It is in, Madam President, the Tourism Guest Levy Act of 2021, Section 8, and I will read it. Since my colleagues on the other side likes to reference previous legislation and legislations that impact what we're doing here, so just for their reference, Section 8 of the Tourism Levy Act of 2021 speaks about the Climate Resilience Development Fund, Madam President. And it reads, because I noted, and it's my time, man, you had your time to speak and you didn't speak about the bill. So let me do that for you, Madam President, to suggest that they don't know where the Climate Resilience Development Fund comes from, or it just came from nowhere, as they were suggesting, Madam President. It comes, and it's right here in the Tourism Guest Levy Act of 2021, Section 8, Climate Resilience Development Fund. 1, Madam President, all monies collected as a levy pursuant to this act shall be paid into the Climate Resilience Development Fund. That is the $5. Madam President, I don't know if you, and I know you staycation quite a bit, but I know sometimes when you go to the hotel,
don't give
you know
the wrong impression about me, please.
But I know you enjoy yourself,
in my
Madam
house,
President,
yes,
so
go ahead.
me?
I staycation in my house, yes, go
Oh, you
ahead.
staycation, right. But I'm sure your Kiwanis would visit hotels for conventions and meetings, Madam President. And you know when you go to the hotel...
Senator Wenner, you have your light on for a reason?
Yes, point of order, Madam.
Yes, let's hear the point of order.
Standing Order 37.8, the Leader of Government Business, the good Honourable Senator, is misrepresenting what was said by, at least I know I referred to the Climate Resilience and Development Fund. I never asked where it was or anything of that nature. I was very clear in my presentation that there has not been adherence to the Finance Administration Act with the proper reporting to the Director of Audit. The Section 47 or 43, whatever it was that I cited, was not followed, and that is my point. I wasn't questioning about cabinet notes and all those other things. I was very clear. They were not following the law as relates to the Finance Administration Act, so they have no authority, having been lawbreakers themselves, to increase that charge. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. That is not, oh, sorry, I should allow you to rule. My most sincere apology.
Senator Gavayo, what is the point you're making about the establishment of the fund, please?
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I was not even, I didn't remember Senator Wenner, but I remembered.
Right, go ahead.
I remembered when Senator Parker, Madam President, and the Hansard would have reflected. In fact, many of our colleagues on this side, they got up on a point of order because she did mention about the Climate Resilient Fund and that it came from nowhere. She never saw it in any budget.
I never said that.
Madam President,
I never said that.
Madam President,
you are misquoting me.
She didn't rise on a point of order. Madam President, I'm still on the floor, please. I'm guided by your instructions as to what is next. As Senator did not rise on a point of order, so I wish to continue with my presentation.
Well, the first point of order is still on the floor?
Yes, and you asked me to respond.
I asked you to explain to me.
Yes.
What you were saying.
What I was saying,
yes. And the legislative provision. And you said that you didn't remember that Senator Wenner had raised the issue as well. And you referred to Senator Parker's presentation, and she said what?
When she referenced about the Climate Resilience Fund, Madam President, and that she never saw it in this House, she never saw it in any budget presentation, Madam President, that is where I was going. So I was just referencing that the Tourism Levy Act of 2021 has the Climate Resilient Fund in it, in Section 8, and it outlines what is the purpose of it as well, so that the people of Antigua and Barbuda are aware, since she wasn't, and she did know that it was not.
Madam President,
in the Tourism
I am
Act
rising on a point of order.
And me try listen to a point of order. And I'm trying to rule on it. Can you sit down, please, Senator Parker? Now, Senator Gavayo, I think what Senator Parker had indicated was that she wasn't seeing the accounting in respect of the fund being shown up. And I think Senator Wenner continued on that vein and mentioned that the last accounts that was published was 2021. And the last accounts that he had in his possession, audited accounts, is that correct? Was 2021, and he didn't see the fund appearing in the audited reports. And he had some previous ones. So I'm linking the two because they're both saying more or less the same thing. You're saying that the fund was established in 2021?
Yes, in the tourism, yes.
So, just to be clear, I understand why Senator Parker would have stood up on the issue.
But she never mentioned the account, Madam President.
She said, no, the account was on.
But that was long after he spoke,
so fine,
but I'm referencing when she spoke. There's no correlation.
You try to bring clarity so everybody can understand where we are. I'm hearing from you that the fund was established 2021.
Yes, Madam President.
Senator Parker said she don't know where the money is going when it gets into the fund.
She said it disappears. It disappears was her exact words. The Hansard would reflect.
Right, okay, can you sit down? Can you sit?
Oh, sure, certainly.
And then Senator Wenner said he had the 2021 accounts being the last public accounts from the auditor, public auditor, Auditor General, right? And he didn't see it appearing in there. So the issue of accountability. Now you're telling me that the fund was established in 2021. So if it was established in 2021, more than likely the report of the 2021 wouldn't reflect it. I'm hearing that. That's what I'm gathering. I'm using my 2 cents. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm gathering. Right? I don't know exactly when the legislation was passed, but it could be that's why, because it does take a while for things to get functioning. The fund might not have established it, might have been established in the legislation, might not have been functioning, or in the middle of the year, and the audited accounts will come after. So maybe 2022 might see something, but you said last audited account. That's what I'm hearing. What Senator Parker is saying is that she was she spoke to the issue of it going in there, but not knowing what has happened. And it was supported by the fact that they couldn't find the audited accounts. And now we're hearing from you that that fund was established in 2021. Am I linking everything together properly now? No? What am I missing? Yeah, I know she said that. We had the objection and all of that before. She said all of that, the money disappeared, she don't know, and we had the objection before. This is a wrap-up. This is a wrap-up, members. This is a wrap-up. It's a wrap-up. I'm not hearing any more. I want Senator Gavaya to finish and wrap up. I have clarified the issue. Senator Gavaya said that the fund established 2021. Correct? In response to the question, where is the money and why is it that there's no accounting in the 2021 accounts? Public accounts, audited public accounts 2021. It's not likely they would have been there because it's established 2021. Anything going forward is another story, but can we just move forward from there? That's just the position that I'm hearing here. Please, Senator Gavaya.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Like I said, whenever we have any doubts, we can just reference legislation, and the Tourism Levy Act of 2021 speaks about the Climate Resilience Fund and its purpose accordingly, Madam President. Madam President, this is a welcome piece of legislation, Madam President. It's an investment in the future of Antigua and Barbuda, and just 4 major changes, Madam President. How the airport charge revenue will be distributed. It increases the airport administration charges. It provides funding for ECA, Madam President, and it also gives the Cabinet greater flexibility to amend the charges through others, rather than us having to come back to Parliament to amend this legislation. So let's say, as times go by, Madam President, maybe, and as times go by, things would increase, there needs to be another $5, then we won't have to come back here to this Honourable House to make that amendment, but the Cabinet is now vested, the power is now vested in them so to do. So, Madam President, this is a welcome piece of legislation, and I want to remind the people of Antigua and Barbuda that the 3 Ds, when we remember deceptive, desperate, and dangerous, was the times of 2004 to 2014 under the United Progressive Party, Madam President. So with these few words, Madam President, and Madam President, I could go on and on, but I know we want to wrap up, because let's not forget the $160 million when we speak about desperation that was borrowed. Right? That $160 million that the United Progressive Party wanted to borrow from the ABI Bank, Madam President, to complete the airport. Right? At 12.5%, lest we forget. I mean, we're in Antigua and Barbuda, you negotiated 12. I've never heard of that in my life. 12.5%, a government trying to negotiate with a local institution, Madam President. But, Madam President, with those few words, Madam President, I support this bill wholeheartedly to this Honourable House. And just like when we travel, there are charges associated with us traveling as well, Madam President. And it's specific, Madam President, is only for international traveling, Madam President. So if you're going across the Caribbean to enjoy these beautiful destinations, you don't pay. You do not pay. It says that in the legislation. It says it does. You need to read and understand and comprehend, Madam President. So if you're traveling regionally, it says international. International is not across the Caribbean, Madam President. Madam President, with those few words, I support the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill wholeheartedly, if it pleases you.
The international part,
Can I just remind you all that I can cite all of you and have you all removed from the rest for the rest of the day? And if it needs be, and I need to get you all out of here for a nice little 3 months or so, I can do that too. And if y'all push me and y'all want to be petty like how y'all behaving, I will do it. Y'all need to respect the standing orders. Respect the House, man. The wrap-up is concluded. Why is there back and forth? I can't even get to say what I'm supposed to say next. All day. It's crazy. It has been moved and seconded that a bill shortly entitled the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill 2026 be read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I believe the ayes have it. The bill will now be read a second time. Madam Clerk.
An act to amend the Airport Administration Charge Act 2012, number 3 of 2012, and for other connected purposes.
The bill now stands referred to Committee of the Whole House to be considered clause by clause.
Clause 1, short title and commencement.
Question is that Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Clause 2, interpretation.
The question is that Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Clause 3, amendment of Section 10, environmental charge.
The question is that Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Clause 4, amendment of first schedule.
The question is that Clause 4 stands part of the bill.
Madam
Those
President, Madam Chair, I did raise during my debate the omission of the parliamentary oversight in the Act.
You cannot omit parliamentary oversight of a legislative piece, yeah, Madam Parliamentary Counsel, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify whether it was left out, or there was a purpose to remove the submission of the negative resolution.
Actually, Senator, it does not change anything.
Pardon?
It does not change anything. The way that it was rephrased,
yes,
it doesn't really change anything. I think the intention, based on the instructions we have, was to see how quickly it could be done. But whether it is marked regulation or it is marked order, the outcome to actually give it effect is the same. Both have to be laid, signed, first of all, signed by the relevant authority and laid before Parliament. Well, if you're referring to the use of the word negative, subject to a negative, okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
An affirmative, because that is really what you need to understand. A negative resolution is really one where we bring the resolution, the regulation or order that has been signed off on, and we lay it before Parliament. You then have about 20 days, if there's an issue, to raise a challenge.
That's
20 days.
Yes,
so whether it is regulation or order, you have that 20 days. That is negative resolution. It does not, however, affect anything that has been done under the statutory instrument before you raise the issue or before the issue was debated in Parliament.
No, Mike.
An affirmative resolution is, I think that was the mix-up, because if it's an affirmative resolution, you cannot do anything under the statutory instrument until Parliament has given approval.
No, my concern is not the resolution. My concern
is that you've removed the minister.
You remove the point where it is laid before the House.
No, it is laid. It has to be laid.
Yeah,
every statutory instrument, every statutory instrument must be laid before Parliament. The issue here is, and that's what I'm saying, it's a non-issue. When the Madam President speaks to negative resolution or affirmative resolution, he speaks to what can be done legally under the statutory instrument before it comes to Parliament. And in this particular case, the legislation that was amended, the section that was amended spoke to negative resolution, which means you can sign it into law, gazette it, and before coming to Parliament, you can actually start to charge your fees as you would have outlined in the statutory instrument. And it's only after challenge has been made at the Parliament that you then say, okay, that particular order or regulation is not lawful or it is no longer valid. The old clause that you've read, which says basically that, what is it? The regulations, minister may make regulations to amend the schedule. And then it says at subsection 2 that the regulations made under subsection 1 are subject to negative resolution. Which means, and it's the same thing, because they took out that they're subject to negative resolution, it doesn't change anything. Because even if it's an order that you do, or even if you had left in the word regulation, it still has to come before Parliament, and it is still subject to a negative resolution.
I think the critical issue is that you cannot exclude the legislative oversight.
Of anything for Parliament, you cannot. If it was affirmative and they changed it, that would be really, really different.
That's just my thing, because people read things and ministers look at things in different light. And the understanding here, the previous bill, the parent bill, was specific that it must be brought here. This bill is saying upon approval of cabinet, right? By an act or order.
No, it says may amend the schedules to this act by order, which is the normal.
Upon approval
Upon approval by cabinet. So the minister cannot just on his own say, hey, we want to change it. He has to go to cabinet, and cabinet would sanction it. So it's even more of accountability, because the body of cabinet now has to say, yes, we should amend it in this way. And then the minister tables it by notice, order in the House. And we did that. That's the first part of the agenda. So you can't do away with the oversight, the legislative oversight.
And that's why I'm saying
when it comes to standing orders.
I don't see the authority here, but if you're saying that it is standard, right?
It does not have to be written in the legislation that it is subject to a negative or an affirmative resolution.
I appreciate that.
And in fact, what we normally practice, if it does not say affirmative, then it goes by way of negative.
Senator Parker, you had a question?
I don't think we're at that clause yet. Okay. Is the one reviewing the schedules? I just want a clarity there.
So the amendment of the schedules. Okay, so we're now at clause 4. The question is that clause 4 stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Clause 5, amendment of section 13, amendment of the schedules.
Madam President, can I ask my question?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the drafters, because this one, stirred up a little bit of debate, and I still think it's murky. The reference to international passengers, as Madam Drafter, Ms. Thomas, attempted to explain, and let me see if I got it right. There are 3 categories here. The international passenger, which is moving from one state to the other, is what I understand international to be. The domestic traveler, which is between Antigua and Barbuda, and the in-transit. So therefore, as Antiguans would normally...
There's also regional.
Not, well, in the Principal Act, it spoke to regional...
Senator, share the revenue miscellaneous amendment bill with her.
It was mine. I shared it with
you. Oh, you shared it with it? But it's in there.
Yeah, but the regional only referred to travel out of Barbuda. So this is the clarity that I'm asking. There are 2 things I want to clarify, Ms. Thomas. Number 1, this charge, this $50, will now also apply to Antiguan and Barbudan travelers. Yes or no? Traveling out of Antigua and into Antigua. When you buy a ticket as an Antiguan and Barbudan, before, we all know we used to go to the window at the airport and pay it. We moved away from that and we included it in the cost of the ticket. We are now raising that fee. This is the 3rd increase This is the third increase. It's the same fee we're paying. We're now adding another $10 onto it. So I'm asking for clarification, because the Prime Minister said, and I agreed with him at the time, that Antiguans, once you're buying a ticket and it's not to Barbuda, to anywhere, once it's not Barbuda, you're going. If you're going to Barbuda, you pay $10. If you're going elsewhere, you are subject to the $50 charge. As is true for if you're a CARICOM national, because you don't travel by passport. You're paying the fee to the airport for using its services. And that is the clarity I would like. There's no way in the Principal Act that refers to Antiguan traveler or Barbudan traveler. There's nowhere. The Principal Act charges everybody, and it makes a distinction as to destination. So if you are traveling outside of the state of Antigua and Barbuda, or traveling into the state of Antigua and Barbuda, you're subject to this tax. We've always paid it.
Yes, Madam Legal Drafts Counsel.
Yes, Madam President. What I will say is that under the ICAO definition, looking at passengers, whether you're classified as an international passenger, a domestic passenger, or regional passenger, etc., it depends on your destination and not on your nationality. And that is what I'm saying. Destination. So whether you're in Antigua and you're as a foreigner, as a US or British or whatever, and you're going to Barbuda, you're not going to pay $100 US, because Antigua to Barbuda is a domestic flight. So it's based on international, the destination is what it is based on.
I think we're all agreeing on that, Ms. Thomas. The question that I think you have not answered is Antigua, the argument that was presented in the House is that an Antiguan is not subject to the charge. And it is once you're traveling, because the impression given in the debate is that Antiguans are not affected by this change. Right? That's the impression given, even in the winding up. Is that so?
Senator Hughes, I am not qualified to rebut any of the discussion in this House, except to give you what is the definition internationally, and I use the ICAO reference. And so therefore, based on that reference, as I've said, passenger, whether you're classified as international, regional, or domestic, it is dependent on your destination and not your nationality. And that is all that I can say as the Chief Parliamentary Counsel. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I don't know. I am looking at the Revenue Miscellaneous Provisions Act 2023, which Senator Hughes brought to the debate. That said the Principal Act was amended because this is now the Airport Administration charge, and it lists A to I, which I told him not to go into, but I thought he was going to go into to prove this point, but it didn't. So, and it lists in the case of international passenger arriving into Antigua, US 40, in the case of, which is ABC, which we're amending to now be $50. And A and B, sorry, to now $50, and C, as is there in the bill, $30, as opposed to 20. And then it continues to D, from D to I. In the case of each arriving domestic passenger, it's $10. In the case of each departing domestic passenger, $10. In the case, and that's easy. In the case of each international passenger arriving into Barbuda, which you raised, US 100, and in the case of each international passenger departing out of Barbuda, US 100. Just there alone suggests to me that there's a difference between the domestic and the international, right? And then we go on to H, in case of each regional passenger, and it says I, in the case of each regional passenger, and those are in respect of Barbuda, this is an amount. So for me, when I read this, it suggests that the domestic is not within the international, because you're specifically stating domestic passenger leaving, domestic passenger arriving. So if we are amending the principal legislation,
let me give you
which was amended in 2023 by the Revenue Miscellaneous Provision Act, And it means that only A, B, and C are being amended, then the rest remain, D to I. So there's three different
things. Exactly.
So the increase is not applied.
No, not on the others. What I'm saying, which Ms. Thomas clarified, is that it is not a nationality that determines the payment of the tax.
Correct.
It is the destination. So the passenger who, we have an international airport now in Barbuda.
What does arrive in domestic mean?
Madam Chair, we have an international airport now in Barbuda, which flights can go into Barbuda. This now, a flight going direct to Barbuda, a passenger may go on a flight direct to Barbuda, private jet. That is the $100 US that is charged. But a passenger coming to Antigua and going on a day trip to Barbuda is $10 domestic. Right? A passenger departing from Barbuda pays $50 US. That is how I read the legislation.
I did not assume. This is why I made the point.
Not now, it is Mr.
No,
yes.
No, the understanding is that if you're departing from Barbuda to an international destination, then you attract that $100 charge.
If you're leaving Barbuda to Miami via your private jet,
Right, but not in between.
but not to come to Antigua, no, that's a domestic charge. Between Antigua, if I take a little Win Air from Barbuda to come to Antigua to take my international flight, it's a domestic flight. That's how I read it. So that's why I said, when I was going into my debate, I was saying we're amending 3 of about 8 different areas. And the 3 areas we're amending have to do with A, B, and C, right? Which is destination international, and does not define the international traveler as an American, a Canadian. It defines an intern. Ms. Thomas was very clear that the IATA standard does not differentiate nationals. Right? So the Antiguan, the language here, which we're trying to correct, is that whether or not the $10 applies to you once you buy a ticket, the additional $10 applies to you once you buy a ticket to travel internationally. And that is the reality of this amendment.
Including Antigua.
If you travel from Antigua to, there's a regional travel, which is covered there. But if you buy a ticket from Antigua to London, you buy a ticket from Antigua to Miami, you have to pay the $50. And if you're coming from Miami to Antigua, you have to pay the $50. And that's what we keep saying. But you keep saying that it does not affect the local, the increase does not affect the local traveler. And that is what Ms. Thomas has clarified. So the issue here, that's why I raised the issue that going into the legislation, the Finance and Administrative Act, it defines the other areas of concern to the traveler. And that's what I wanted to highlight, that I listened and yielded to the Madam President in the chair, that I didn't go into it because it was part of my educational discourse. There's 100. No,
he did not.
I said traveling out of Barbuda.
Okay.
Is $100.
Is there clarity on this issue now?
I think there's clarity, and the public should be made aware.
Madam President, I just have a little.
I would suggest that. Why you don't like to let me talk and so, Senator Barker? Let me just done.
Oh, because you asked if there's clarity. I'm sorry.
Oh my. I would suggest that we seek some clarity on this matter. Yeah, it's clear. For me, it's clear. Yeah, so let's move on from the clause then. Okay. Amendment of section. The question is, yes, Senator Parker, is there something else on this?
Yeah, Madam President, because of the interruptions in my debate, because this is how I wanted to clarify it as well. Now, the issue of the CARICOM traveler is still opaque to me. I don't know if Ms. Thomas can answer it, because in the CARICOM traveler, in the same revenue, miscellaneous, which expanded the schedules from the Principal Act. That is where, for the first time, it introduced regional passenger. Okay, let me call it a regional passenger. But it only referenced, even in this schedule, regional passenger arriving into Barbuda. So I am of the view that any regional passenger, because once again, it is by destination, and we have to correct the record, that anybody in the Caribbean that flies out of Antigua also attracts this charge. There's no exemption for CARICOM nationals. The Principal Act at Section 4, which Senator Chester tried to highlight, lists exemptions. There are no exemptions. We are not exempted. CARICOM travelers are not exempted. And that's my understanding, and to me it seems clear. Right. Because based on the same IKE or whatever, I don't want to misquote the thing, international is actually defined as moving from one state to the other. That is what international means. International does not draw a definition that says extra-regionally. We can have our regional thing, but international already has that connotation in the aviation industry. And that's what I was trying to say. International is not that we're going international. Once you're moving out of the state of Antigua and Barbuda, it is considered international. Now, my clarity I'm looking for is that if we travel to Barbados, I know we usually have a lesser fee, but I don't see, yeah. All right.
Okay, thank you very much for the debate. Very interesting indeed. The question is that Clause 5 stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Madam Clerk?
The enacting clause.
The question is that the enacting clause stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
And the title.
The question is that the title stands part of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The House will now resume its sitting. Senator Guevara.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'm pleased to report that the bill shortly entitled the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill 2026 has passed through the committee stage without amendments, and I move the adoption of the report of the committee on the bill.
I beg to second the motion, Madam President.
It has been moved and seconded that the report of the committee on the bill be adopted. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Senator Govaya.
Madam President, I beg to move that the bill shortly entitled the Airport Amendment 2026 Bill be read a third time and passed accordingly.
Seconder, please.
Second.
I second the motion, Madam President.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled the Airport Administration Charge Amendment Bill 2026 be read a third time and passed. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The bill will now be read a third time.
An act to amend the Airport Administration Charge Act 2012, number 3 of 2012, and for other connected purposes.
The bill has been read a third time and passed accordingly. Now I see it's 2:19, and we will take our lunch break now. We will resume at 3:15. Any suggestions otherwise? Good. May I have the motion?
Thank you very much, Madam President. I move that we take lunch at this time and return promptly at 3:15 so that we can carry on with the other business of the House.
Seconder, please.
I second the motion, Madam President.
It is moved and seconded that this Honorable House will stand adjourned until 3:15 this afternoon. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned until 3:15 today. Senator O'Neill? Senator O'Neill? Senator Hughes, oh, you caught him just in time.